Reveille, donks.
Look at us now, tip to tip. This is our life. This is our passion. That's the spirit we bring to this show.
I'm Luke Thomas.
I'm Brian Campbell.
This is Morning Kombat.
Yeah, we need a new intro. I think it's time. Hi, everybody. How are you doing on this 15th day of April 2024? Was supposed to be the beginning of the UFC antitrust trial. Well, oops.
Hey, I'm not here to hate on the Ultimate Fighting Championship today, okay?
Not today.
I'm here to lather on the love fest.
Not today. Welcome, everyone. It's time for Morning Kombat. We so appreciate you joining us here in our New York City studios. My name is Luke Thomas. That's Brian Campbell, fresh from his Florida vacation. I have to tell you, you do look rested. Your spirit seems lifted. You don't have much of a tan.
I don't really tan well. I think it's my, my cross-breeding Lithuanian, French-Canadian upbringing, you know, and the way the way I was put together.
Don't tan well, do you mean sat inside with the AC all day?
No. Dude, the beaches on the Gulf side of Florida,
They're nice.
Are so not Florida. They're wonderful. You know what I mean? I could stay there for a few days. I could. I did.
In fact, you did.
I won't go as far as living there, though. Thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, I missed a bit. I'm so grateful you guys let me on the show last week. I mean, who takes a vacation during UFC 300? My kids do, so you're going to like it. My mom had all these temporary tattoos, so I put all these giant dream catchers on my arm, and I was going to reveal how Florida I had become. Completely forgot about the gimmick. And
God damn it. All right, maybe next time. We have a lot to get to today. UFC 300 was on Saturday. Easily one of the best and frankly most important shows in UFC history. We're going to get to every element of that, but that is not all because this is also Haney Garcia Fight Week. We're going to set the table for that event. And BC, 12:30, via Zoom, we're going to have Jorge Masvidal here. Now, you were there Friday in Las Vegas. You hosted... How many? Are there 4 or 5 legs of this presser?
There are 4 stops on the Baddest Tour. We'll be back Tuesday night in Times Square here in New York. But I'm happy to get him on the show. We're going to talk about his June 1st boxing match and the big rematch against Nate Diaz and really just his takes in general on UFC 300, the return of Conor McGregor, which we will also get into.
Yep.
And I have a very, very good batch of shit coming your way, okay?
And we'll do BC's feces as well. As always, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're listening on your favorite audio podcast platform, you can give us a nice review there. And for everyone watching us on the DraftKings Network, happy to be a part of that as well. BC, you can follow us on various social media outlets. We'll put that up on the screen. Let me say, there it is. Morning Kombat's everywhere. El Thomas News, blah, blah, blah. B. Campbell, all that good stuff is there. We do have merch. I'm wearing some. MorningKombat.store. You can use the Live 10 promo. It's always up. You can
probably, right? You can probably use it.
I know. We don't even know if that's true, but it's probably true.
I mean, RJ, I do talk to that man. You can reach out to him, or I'll reach out to him for you. Anyway, order the shit, all right? MorningKombat.store. Luke, I want to shout out Sam from the... I got mentioned. I don't get recognized in the wild as aggressively as you do, but Sam at the Charlotte airport came up to me as I was charking down a bagel, and
What'd they say? What'd he say?
He was like, "Yo, you Brian Campbell?" I was like, "Yeah, motherfucker," know. And then we did like a man hug. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, that's cool. And by the way, I know we can be the UFC watchdogs at times, and we can be critical. And I said it off the top. Saturday night reignited.
It was magic.
Everything we love about this game, everything we love about the UFC, their ability to promote, their ability to make a card feel gigantic, their ability to have one banger after another. It was so pure. So I want to shout out Dana here, from the bonuses to the different trunks that Max and Poetan were able to wear, which was fun and creative, to the crowd atmosphere, it was just really,
it was a good crowd
across the board, an absolute slam dunk. And I could not fall asleep Saturday night. And that's how it should be after a great pay-per-view, where you're just wired and you're up till 5 a.m. and you want to be, right? I love that. It was back, Luke. Where the hell was that? It was back.
Well, don't worry. We're back to the Apex soon, bitches. So enjoy it while it lasts. But nevertheless, you're right. Let's start actually with our UFC 300 conversation. BC, I want to start with Max Holloway, but just before I do, if I may, UFC 300, very basic question. Did it live up to the hype?
It might have actually exceeded it. Even with when we were being hypercritical of the main event, which made it seem like they didn't have the right plans in place, and the co-main event, which just kind of seemed out of place until we watched the fight, and it was absolutely badass because both women sold out ridiculously. That you had the pinnacle point with Max that we're obviously going to hit hard, but you had so many stories up and down. When you have a card that's this deep, and by the way, 200 was pretty damn deep on paper too, but it didn't feel like this one did, where fight to fight, the electricity just seems to transfer. We had so many big finishes and breakout moments that this played out like an A+. This is peak MMA. I mean, I know that there's cards that maybe felt bigger coming in. If you had Conor McGregor, or I always say 205 and 217 in New York, not only felt grand, they frickin' delivered. We can all have our favorite card, whether it's Brock and Carwin, or it's 196, or 249 during the pandemic. We've all got these ones that just recaptured that moment. This recaptured the moment, like I said, as great as any I can remember. It just felt great to see the apex of this great sport and this promotion, that I'm going to go A+ across the board in terms of how it absolutely delivered.
You know me, I tend to downgrade things. People give things a B, I give it a B-. You give it a C, I give it a C-. I'm going to agree with you, A+. Which isn't to say that everything about it worked.
No.
Not everything about it worked. But A, enough things worked. And B, of those things, it was historic.
And Dana was
historic level of magic.
Giddy afterwards, and I was right there with him.
I know.
Were in
I haven't
lockstep.
seen him that excited since the previous night's Power Slap event. That was the most I've seen him excited since Friday. All right, with that in mind, BC, let's actually get the first question going here if we can. I pitch it to you. It is as follows. We're actually not going to start with the main event today. We're going to start with what I think is, and BC agrees, the biggest story coming out of UFC 300, and that is the ascension of Max Blessed Holloway. BC, my question is as follows. A stunning one-punch KO at the last second over Justin Gaethje clearly stole the show. We'll talk about where it ranks in terms of all-time KOs in a minute. What does it do right now for his career?
It gives him a second expansive prime. And I know you can argue and say, well, look, really, he started off already in this reinvention. Max is the ultimate reinventor, and that's what the greats do. We talked about that coming in. But since that trilogy with Volkanovski, he was already on the upkick of sort of this second run, the second major run, as we're all sort of maybe rightfully wrong, I don't know, in hindsight, saying, he's going to take too much damage. They woke him up in this fight. And what he ultimately delivered, he was already a first ballot Hall of Famer. He was already on that short list of the most deeply beloved fighters in this sport's history, the Randy Couture's, the Chuck Liddells. I mean, he's in that lineage, and he's obviously one of the greatest fighters, and arguably, right, top 1 or 2 in his division's history. This put him on a viral level. This was Anderson Silva shit, what he did. Like, you're trying to basically compare this not only to the greatest knockouts in history, but the greatest individual UFC moments. When they show the Who's Bob O'Reilly leading into the pay-per-view and that great video montage there, it's like, what are the moments that always peak in the pinnacle? It's like Matt Hughes slamming Trigg in the rematch. It's Ronda getting head kicked by Holly. Like, this was that and then some. This was Silva front kicking Belfort. This was Silva making Forrest Griffin look like an amateur boxer. This was one of those moments that was so viral that it becomes the career-defining stamp of who this guy was, because it wasn't just that he overcame the odds when some were wondering if he was going the wrong direction. It wasn't just that he went out of his way to deliver the Eric Morales of 2005 in the first Manny Pacquiao fight, when he was also up on the cards in the 12th round and said, basically, I'm going to turn southpaw, Manny. Let's meet in the middle and let's just brawl because I freaking love it, because my huevos are so large. So Max has the ultimate viral moment, completely redeems himself again at the total elite level, where now we're talking, should he fight for the lightweight title? Should he fight for the featherweight? Should he defend the BMF belt? Or should he just seek out Conor and get the biggest pay-per-view he can get? He's already a big star in our hearts, and he just doubled down on that at a time at 32 where he's consistently proving over the last 3 fights that he's still that guy. He is, I am, or whatever that phrase, what was awesome he said afterwards. So what does this mean for Max? This was immortality. I mean, he was already there, right? He already accomplished so much. He knocked out Jose Aldo twice. He had that really long win streak. He's done so many great things. But this is almost like the key that gets you into the door. Maybe not to the not to the top 5 greatest in the upper room, but to another level of stardom, historical significance, and just virality. Does that make sense? From a viral to just from something where he might have just doubled down on his celebrity in one moment, and it hit all the boxes. It was the most badass thing you've ever seen. It was the most viral thing you've ever seen. It was so rejuvenating for his career. I don't think you can go too far right now in trying to say what this moment meant, what it made you feel, and just how great of a representation of the sport, which Max already always was as a great ambassador. This was his Silva moment. And very few people in the history of the sport can have Anderson Silva moments, and he just absolutely delivered on that.
Yeah, I have a few responses. I think I'm almost entirely in agreement with you. First thing I'd say is I don't think I've seen a career reinvention like this successful anyway, since Randy Couture.
And didn't I ask you, even though it wasn't perfectly comparable, I said maybe we could have a Couture versus Sylvia moment. Didn't expect this, Luke.
Right.
Didn't expect this.
Right,
Holy
which was
crap.
also a 5-round beatdown. Now, there was no stoppage in that one, but it came, he had been knocked out by Chuck Liddell. He had retired. He came back, got an immediate title shot, and there he goes. So for Max Holloway, after losing 3 times to Alexander Volkanovski, and we were there that night, that happened, 2 International Fight Weeks ago, we just didn't know what was left of Max's career. He looked like he had been solved.
Retiring.
Right. He looked like he had been solved and not finished, but finished as an elite contender. Wow, that was extremely premature and not correct. That's the first thing I'd say. Second of all, that knockdown that looked like a knockdown, like his knee touched, but for fight metric purposes, there has to be an establishment of a ground position for the knockdown to count. So Max Holloway still not been knocked down. I want to point that out, which is also incredible. But you spoke to something about what it meant. That is either one of the best, not just fight finishes, but UFC moments in the entire organization's history, or it's the number one. Now, among fight finishes, I would say like Joaquin Buckley's win over Impa Kasanganay as a pure acrobatic knockout.
Well, I wanted to ask you how you mix history with that, because you could just easily pick Conor over Aldo. You could pick the front kick from Silva. I think the knockout on Overeem by Ngannou is the most brutal in history. Terry Edom, the spin kick. There's so many ways. How do you condense that to say which one is better than the other?
So for me, I can't think of it purely on KO terms, because he baited Gaethje to come exchange with him and then viciously KO'd him. Like, he KO'd a guy who threw away his own defense. Of course, he did too. That's part of the exchange. It's hard for me to rank that as like the best KO. But as an MMA moment, let's just say it out loud. It's on par with the Showtime kick. It's on par with Randy Couture with that inside leg kick and that overhand punch and dropping Tim Sylvia where the crowd roars in delight. It's on par with Brock Lesnar reversing fortunes and coming back. It's on par with
Nate choking out Conor.
It's on par with Jorge Masvidal, who we'll have later on the show, kneeing Ben Askren. Actually, I would say in terms of its size and significance, it's bigger. But certainly, when you think of the top 10, 15, 20 MMA moments where you knew exactly where you were, how it made you feel, how it put you on a place in time, and to your point, utterly transformative for his career. I want to say something. The belt does not make the fighter. We always have known that in boxing. We now know it to be true in MMA. But because of what Max did in this fight, and because it was so incredible, he has now transferred more relevancy and legitimacy, and to a degree, I think, appetite for BMF fights or any kind of BMF fight he's going to be in. What he achieved was so transcendent, he actually lifted this belt out of, a promotional kind of gimmick into something much more real, much more meaningful, and he proved, BC, because I didn't know, the big knock on him, we saw in the Poirier fight, wasn't that he wasn't game enough, he was just physically overmatched. First of all...
Short camp, too. Short camp. Didn't put on the size.
First of all, he didn't just knock out Justin Gaethje, he thoroughly beat him, even if that had never happened. This is the rebirth and ascension of Max Holloway. This is him declaring to the world, I have yet another chapter, and in fact, BC, it might be his best.
A second act, and a legitimate, grand second act, where it's not just the ability to headline pay-per-views, like we said, against anyone. BMF, celebrity, lightweight title, featherweight title. This moment was a crystallization of exactly what makes Matt so special. You could argue it's a crystallization of exactly what makes this sport so great to watch and so unpredictable. But Luke, I want to ask you, the reason why I compare it to Silva is because Silva had video game moments that made us go, like, is that fixed? Because I've never seen that. What he did to Forrest Griffin that time in Philadelphia, you're just like, I don't know if that was real. I've never seen it. Is this the greatest video game moment because of the UFC 199 Ricardo Lamas reoccurrence from Max of saying right here, right now, which we all love when people commit to that, but not everyone commits to going for broke in that moment in boxing or MMA. They both committed to going for broke, and he had a walk-off that's actually on par with the greatest walk-off of all time, which is Yair Rodriguez in the 25th anniversary night, down on the scorecards in round 5 with 1 second to go against Zombie. Is this the greatest video game moment of all time where it's just like, that's not human? What just happened?
Hard to say no. The one difference is I am noticing boxing fans who are like, this isn't they're just swinging wildly. First of all, you can get people to do that, something similar in boxing at times. So this idea that like it doesn't happen there is kind of crazy. But more to the point, it's just, here's the thing about it. When Anderson Silva front kicked Vitor in the face, there was a certain kind of acrobatic beauty to it. This didn't have that. But what binds this moment with the Silva front kick is that it's an expression of their fighting personality. Anderson was the magician who could just pull off things you never thought possible. Max is the guy like, meet me in the fucking center now. Bite down on the mouthpiece and just go. It's everything you love about him. Of course. Is he a technician as well? The first 4.5 rounds spoke to what a technician he is. But the last 10 seconds right here is such an expression of not only his personality, but what that title is supposed to be about, what that exchange was supposed to be about, and what fight fans love about guys like this.
That was MMA sex. Like, that was your MMA climax moment. I mean, it's the greatest thing. I want to close and mention a couple of things. One, the friendship between the two of them afterwards was Gotti Ward-esque. To see that so instantly, the love, the respect, the backstage videos of them talking to each other on FaceTime and in person was amazing. Justin Gaethje is not going to rightfully get recognized that he should for the chin and the dog. I mean, for him to have a broken nose at the end of round 1 on that back kick, to be just dominated in rounds 2 or 3 where he's a step behind, he can't breathe, he can't see. I mean, it's just a mess. And then come back and almost knock down Max and win round 4 across the board and be in striking position in round 5 to potentially do something big. Very few humans could ever pull that off. But I do want to ask you in almost a devil's advocate way, if that perfectly landed back kick at the end of round 1 that seemingly broke Gaethje's nose and changed the momentum, if that didn't happen, what does the rest of that fight look like?
I don't think it's a relevant question. I really don't.
I'm not saying it's something that there's an asterisk. I'm just asking you, that was a perfect moment that seemed to open up the door for Max's brilliance because he wasn't getting the firepower coming back for a good stretch of that.
I mean, here's the thing. You talk to fighters all the time. Again, I spoke to Ryan Hall about this and how he tore his thumb off of his hand. I mean, obviously not through the skin, but underneath within like the first minute of fighting Ilia Topuria. Just a freak injury. We've seen things like that happen. I'm not saying he would have beaten him but for that, but nevertheless, he told me in the middle of the fight, he's like, fuck, I got to fight this guy and my fucking thumb can't close. Like, it just happens in these fights in this kind of a way. He threw it, by the way, he threw spinning back kicks from either stance the entire fight over and over again, which was pretty incredible. To me, it's like, would the fight have gone differently but for that? Maybe a little bit. Certainly, there is a case to be made. I got to tell you, after what I saw for 25 minutes, Max Holloway was not going to be beaten on that night. Not by Justin Gaethje, not by a lot of people in that weight class.
What was his win between the Arnold Allen and Zombie one in this one?
Yair? He had Yair.
Yair, right. Which he took big damage and showed. I feel like there's I don't know any other way to say it, 1996 Michael Jordan vibe, right? Where he went away to baseball, he came back in the 95 playoffs, he got handled by Orlando, he wasn't fully himself, his body wasn't right, whatever. He went back to the drawing board in his early 30s and basically said, no, I still am that guy, and in 1996, I'm going to fucking prove it to you and win 72 games and sweep the Magic in the Eastern Conference Championships and just dominate. That spirit has been there the last few fights. I don't remember an MMA where I've seen that exact spirit in this circumstance. We've had comebacks before, we've had dominant runs from people, but there was just that veteran guile where he just pulled back and said, no, I'm not fucking done. I'm not even close to done. And I'm going to show you guys once again, hey, BC, I know how many times you've doubted me in my career. Don't try to think because you picked me against Gaethje that you're suddenly on board with me. I know that, Max. I was wrong the whole time. But his ability to just say, like, no fucking way and turn it right back around was almost Jordan-esque. You know what I mean? It was almost like that. And it's incredible. That's the best part about covering this sport. When you get involved in the storyline of someone's life and their personality, and obviously Max, along with Poirier, along with, you can name a few others, are just one of the most likable guys that we've ever covered in this game. But for him to have that extra gear, it's Kobe like, it's Jordan like, it's MFer like, Luke. You know, he is the baddest MFer, but that was a motherfucker that was in there.
He leads in statistics throughout mixed martial arts in a number of ways. Here's one of my favorite ones I found out the other day. He is the only fighter in UFC history to have 16 different fights where he landed 100 significant strikes. Ready for this? The next closest has 10. He is the leader in all-time significant strikes. The differential he has between strikes landed and strikes absorbed is shocking. He is one of a kind, and now he is back-to-back one-punch KOs in his fights, one at 145, one at 155. Max Holloway is reborn. There is simply no two ways about it. And if he got a title shot at 155, I'd be okay with it. If he got a title shot at 145, I'd be okay with it. It looks like 145 might happen sooner. Topuria versus Holloway. Your early read.
My early read is I want to ask you, being a guy who's represented early, come on board, said, look, Topuria's the next dude, and he's going to be there. And he did things to Volk that I didn't necessarily fully expect. Did you feel like, and we're going to get to the tweet that Topuria just put out, which is bold and strong, but I want to ask you first, his reaction at ringside, which cage side, originally it was like shock, as everyone does, because it was a walk-off KO.
I mean, it wasn't insane.
But when Max said, hey, man, I'll fight Topuria, I'll go to Spain, whatever, when they flashed back to Ilya, it didn't seem like he wanted it. Tell me what you felt in that moment.
I think a lot of people are projecting, I think is what happened. I think, here's what happened. Look,
he looked like I'm not going to say this, but he kind of looked like an old bitch in that moment. Now, the tweet covers
once
the
again,
sins.
here we go. Hey, put the camera on me. Hey, Topuria wasn't very funny at that press conference, and he got his lunch money taken. I wonder what's going to happen in the fight. He's going to lose badly. Oh, how'd that fucking go for all you jabronis out there? Listen to me. This is the wrong time for anybody to be fighting Ilia Topuria. Topuria's going to win that fight. I love Max.
Whoa,
I love Max.
Max just 96 Jordan, like half the division. And the fight I forgot was Cater,
I gotta tell you,
which was virtuoso.
I gotta tell you, I don't think people really understand how good
Topuria's great.
Put the camera back on me. There's a bunch of you who have decided to learn about the Ilia Topuria experience the hard way.
Oh God! If this guy was not living in Spain right now, we would not be having this conversation.
You're about to find out. Here's my reaction. My reaction was when I saw the video. At first, he was like kind of muted, or just to a degree sheepish. Is how it looked for a second. I don't think that's going to have even an iota of relevance by the time they fight.
I'm not projecting that he was scared. I just felt like to him, he didn't calculate in that moment was possible.
I agree.
And that maybe he's thinking,
Surprise.
I still want O'Malley in some super fight.
Remember, he was like, Max is done. I'm not going to fight this guy. I'm going to fight Conor. This was a bit of a wake-up call that, like, you've got some work to do at 145. No doubt about it.
And this fight would be massive. Let's please, Long Island Luke in the back, throw to the tweet from Topuria, which is strong. Here it is. Congrats on your performance, Max. Respect your story and everything you achieved with a beautiful family. Hopefully, we're going to share the octagon before the end of the year. I like that. And trust me, he said, you're going to feel something that you never felt before. I will be the first one to take your lights out, and added the biblical verse, Philippians 4:13. Max responded and said, it's all love. Let's do it. Blah, blah, blah. How big is this fight?
Huge, massive, absolutely gigantic. You could put it in Spain. You could put it in the United States. You could put it in Canada.
Jerry World? Allegiant?
You could put it, I don't know if the UFC just doesn't seem to want to do stuff like that. So, like, to answer your question, it's like, dude, me and BC saw Spence versus Ugas there. Like, yeah, you could do Topuria versus Topuria versus Holloway there. I just don't think the UFC has designs on that. But when he beat Volk, I didn't know how this was going to go. You were like, well, let's see how he gets through that experience. Dude, Max's face after this fight was barely scratched. It was barely scratched. He was the one who was handing out the ass whippings, again, for virtually the entire 25 minutes. Again, the fourth round for Gaethje was a good round. But the rest of it was just all Max. And Max, don't forget, in the fifth round, he rocked Justin Gaethje again. This fight is huge. And if Topuria can go in there and do what I think he'll probably do, which is win, obviously, it's going to blow his stardom up as well. But let me put the reverse. If I am wrong and Max goes in there and wins, that would be one of the most legendary fucking things I'd ever seen in my life.
It already was what he did to Gaethje. You mentioned his face. I don't want to talk about his face. I want to talk about Luke Thomas's face. We all remember when Dustin Poirier finished Conor McGregor in the rematch, and we had the ski pole moment, and it was great. Luke, you lost your shit on the Luke Thomas live show. You and shout out Othello in the background here.
Yeah.
Here's what the people saw that were watching live.
From Justin Gaethje, right in the middle. Let's do it.
Oh, shit! Oh, shit! Oh, shit! Oh, my God! Oh, my God! Justin Gaethje got a flat! Justin Gaethje got a flat! Holy fucking shit! Oh, my fucking God! Holy fucking shit! Oh, holy fucking shit!
See, I thought you were reacting to another technical difficulty there with your audio.
I could have been. You know what? You could say whatever you want about me. You can't say I'm not a fight fan.
No, that's pure. That's why people love it, because it's pure and weird, but it's pure, and that's why people definitely dig it.
But
and
dude,
I did too.
I'm sitting there gesticulating like like
Gesticulating, yes.
gesticulating like a fucking Colombian vaginato singer.
Oh,
if anyone
yeah.
knows what those
Yeah,
references
yeah.
are. But seriously, I didn't.
My favorite thing
like,
about
take
Colombia
my
are the
glasses off, and I'm
vaginatos,
like,
by the way.
I was like, what?
My favorite thing about Colombia, it turns out our vaginatos, so that is very
It's a type of like country blues.
know.
But I like literally was so overwhelmed with emotion. I had to take off my glasses and I didn't know what to do.
Would you say you were rock hard with emotion? Would you say
I felt electrocuted.
Because some people thought you looked like you were on a roller coaster. I think you had a magic mountain downstairs, but that's neither here nor there. Let's keep it rolling because we have such a loaded show. Do you have any other topics regarding to Max here?
We could talk forever, but we got stuff
All
to
right,
do.
topic number 2 does take us to the actual main event of UFC 300 here, light heavyweight title. I always liked it coming in, the new champ against the champ that never lost it, but it turns out one of these two, wow, right? Alex Pereira, Poatan, wow. First round KO, first big punch, that counter left hook, which is maybe the biggest weapon right now in the entire sport. Luke Thomas, Alex Pereira's quick and efficient KO win over Jamal Hill means blank.
No one has, no kickboxer, no elite kickboxer. Let me say it this way. Alex Pereira is the most successful elite kickboxer to ever cross over into MMA. Now, understand something. You could debate that because you can say, well, Izzy was a champion. So here's what he's like the second best to ever do it at middleweight. A guy like Pereira doesn't have all of those same accolades. He's got different ones. But remember, he was a multiple-time glory champion, and now he's been a division champion in 2 different weight classes. He's now defended this title.
The 4th UFC fighter in history to defend titles in 2 different divisions.
He's beaten 5 former champions. When you look at kickboxers who have crossed over, guys like Mirko Krokop, guys like Stefan Leko, guys like, you name
Bob
it.
Sapp,
Well, Bob Sapp, not really, but Melvin Manhoff, you can go down the list. They've all done well to different degrees, and they've certainly been very accomplished. I don't know anyone. I'm not saying that Pereira has the same kind of resume as Izzy. Izzy will always be, in my judgment, at worst, the second best middleweight of all time. It's hard to put Pereira necessarily in a similar kind of category just due to the short amount of time. But no one has been an elite kickboxer, made the move over to MMA, and collected as many meaningful trophies with this kind of meaningful victories this quickly, this matter-of-factly, ever.
In his 8th UFC fight. 5 consecutive former or current champions defeated. Bounced back from one of the gnarliest knockout losses in his rematch in the MMA world with Adesanya in Miami, which included the ultimate meme celebration, which then Poatan reversed on Hill in this one, which is incredible. And Luke, I don't want to harp on it, but I do think UFC got it wrong, way wrong. BMF should have been the main event. Max and Justin, not just the way the fight played out, but the star power, what it means, such a celebratory, fun, action, violent moment. But yet Poatan still goes out there in the main event, absolutely drills and finishes a former champion with the first punch he lands, and does it in the coldest motherfucking way of eats the low blow, tells the referee, no, I got this.
Let me cook.
Let me cook, basically, Chef Curry over here, and then delivers the punch from hell, and then instantly has loaded the viral celebration of, like, you know, the payback for all the trash talk. I mean, I don't know if you saw, as Poatan was walking into the arena doing his dance. What's the nicest way to call that dance?
Sort of ceremonial
tribute to the to the indigenous
tribe,
people.
yeah.
And then Jamal Hill's in the ring, you know, pretending that he's breaking the arrow and over his leg and doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't have anything against Jamal Hill coming in confident right there, but that was such a freaking cold moment in an iced ending that he delivered. Nobody was ever, whether it was the co-main event or the main event, going to live up or to top what the BMF fight was. But Pereira came really damn close to winning the night with this performance. And historically, it's like, what do we do with him? I mentioned he's one of now 4 people that defend titles in 2 different divisions, and the 3 names are, you know, all-timers. Does he have the best crossover, not just as kickboxer, but like ever? And I'm comparing it to Henry Cejudo going from Olympic wrestling champion to 2-division UFC champion, Holly Holm going from a 17 world title wins in women's boxing and being in the Hall of Fame to winning a UFC title. But now he's won 2 UFC titles in 8 fights, even though he has a game on paper that's like one-dimensional.
Yes.
That like doesn't play out. Who was the guy who came in a couple years ago as a kickboxer? Was it Gokhan?
Gokhan Saki.
And he just got absolutely drilled and never came back.
He was kind of washed by the time he got there. But yes.
The point is that happens. He has walked in, joined Team Teixeira in Connecticut. We may have a new king of Connecticut here, and just absolutely took over the sport, canceled out all of the negatives to his game, takedown defense, all of that. Plays within his strengths, is clutch, has incredible cardio, is mean as shit, is really fun and viral, and is this like fun superhero that everybody loves who's actually becoming a legitimate star. Delivers an incredible viral moment that probably would have been talked about forever if Max didn't do what he did in terms of how he just sent Jamal Hill down. And now teases the idea of not only I want to come back in Brazil for UFC 301, but I want it to be at heavyweight. And no disrespect again to Vitaly Malinkin of One Championship, who is a 3-division champion for them.
Malinkin.
Yeah. But with their weight class rehydration.
Anatoly, by the way, not Vitaly.
Did I call him Vitaly Klitschko, basically?
Yeah, you did.
Malinkin. Sorry about that. When he wins 3 championships, the middleweight one is at 205 pounds. So it's basically light heavyweight. We have a chance here. We have an opening here. We always thought it'd be Conor. It might be Poatan, the first person to legitimately walk in and have a shot at winning a 3rd title in a 3rd weight class. I didn't love Dana's answer afterwards at the Giddy press conference saying, well, it seems like he's got a lot of business to do in his own division. Let's slow the brakes. I feel like what Poatan has done in this short window, 2 championships, everything, headlining MSG, headlining 300. What else could this man do where the UFC basically should bend to his will? Oh, you want to fight to heavyweight? Then we'll get you in line. Oh, you want to turn around quick and help us 301, which is right now, I don't want to say this after 300 just blew our brains positively, but 301 on paper is one of the worst pay-per-view cards of all time. Let that man fight there. Get a heavyweight up in the bullpen. Let's make a fun attraction fight. If he wants to go for a 3rd title, he's 36 years old. He's not getting any younger. This is the guy. Embrace him, UFC. As much as Max just doubled down on his celebrity, Poatan is here, and he's one of the most unique crossover forces the sport has ever seen. If he wants to go fight John Jones, set up the fight. Luke, I'm serious. What this guy has done in a window this big is absolutely ridiculous. Has he benefited from time and place and opportunity? Yes. But he's delivered in each of these fights, including rallying to knock out Israel Adesanya in round 5 at middleweight. I don't know what else to do. He shouldn't have to stay at 205. He should do whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah, I don't understand the whole idea of let's fast track this guy at middleweight, then fast track him at light heavyweight. You get 2, obviously, Izzy got the second of the 2 MMA meetings, but you fast tracked him, he got a title at middleweight. You fast tracked him at light heavyweight, he got a title there. What's the point in slowing him down now, BC? To your point, every time you alley-oop this guy, he slam dunks.
With style, with flair.
Style. Why would you slow down the freight train now? I'm completely on board. First of all, let me just say something about, you mentioned about Max should have been the main event. I agree. And Max noted pre-fight, hey, we're the ones who all the advertisements are based around. I think that's why he got the 600K
I think
bonuses,
so too, which is why
they were thanking him for it.
Squeaky wheel.
Right. But getting back to Pereira here, he did his job at main event. I mean, you go down and you look at the details of how he hand fought Jamal Hill and how he circled out and got him. Like, dude, did you notice when he landed that left hook, it was wide open? He made it wide open. He made Jamal Hill make mistakes. The level of A, refinement in his game, and BC, the ruthless efficiency. He doesn't need to land on you many times. Just needs 1 or 2 good ones.
Like Wycliffe.
And your shit is over, bub. Do I think he can beat Tom Aspinall? I don't think he can beat Tom Aspinall. Do I think he should get a fight against Tom Aspinall? Fuck yes!
Yes.
Make that fight. Are you kidding me?
The new king of Connecticut is here, yes.
Speed run this guy's UFC Hall of Fame effort. Speed run it.
Embrace it.
Can you
People
imagine
love him.
Can you imagine Brian Campbell if he goes in there and takes, again, do I think it's likely? I don't think it's likely. But if he took Aspinall's head off and he becomes, that would be still an interim champion, but we would all know what that would mean. Dude, you are talking about something that is fucking basically impossible. Let him cook. He should do that to Dana. Hold on, Dana. Let me cook.
That's the only thing I could say negative about Dana, that comment. But I want to say this, like, it's not just stepping up and then elevating and over-delivering. And it's like, we thought wrestlers were going to take him down. We thought all these things. No.
They still might. By the way, they still might. They still might.
And I know that at times he's benefited from opportunistic matchmaking, but he went in there and delivered. He's a 1 of 1. Embrace that UFC. Again, he's not getting any younger, although he does operate in the heavier divisions. I just think Chuck Mindenhall deserves the ultimate high five, not just for being a great guy, Luke, and a great analyst, but on pregame preview a couple years ago, and I always reference this, he said ahead of that first Adesanya Poatan fight, We think the story's all about Izzy and redeeming himself against the bad guy at the end of the movie in his kickboxing career. It turns out this was Poatan's story all along. And he's right, and I don't say that to diminish what Adesanya has achieved or what he will continue to go on to achieve. But Luke, this is the ultimate storybook crossover. And the fact that he actually got knocked out in the most vicious and viral way in the middle of that and just said, oh, F it, I'll go up to light heavyweight and beat Prochazka, beat Blachowicz, like beat all these fucking legitimate ass names, has a win over Sean Strickland. It's like, this is exactly, if you're the UFC, who you want to be, an organic superstar who everyone respects. He understands humor. He's got the Easter Island statue gimmick going. Like, he gets it. He likes, attractive women too, Luke. Not that should be a part of my analysis.
But
here.
again, going back to the Max thing, dude, Poatan also wins in a way that speaks to his personality. Again, doesn't say a lot, but gets it done. Doesn't say a lot. He's not Max is more of a volume play in striking. Obviously, that power is now coming along. Poatan's not a volume play. He's not a volume play guy. He's not trying to do a ton of different stuff. He has a very smooth game and 1 or 2 points of contact, and the whole shit comes undone.
And I get what Dana's ultimately saying. We still have to do Jones-Stipe, even though we don't. And then we still have to try to make Aspinall versus, but Aspinall is the one who's left out of this picture because of that fight. If we have to build toward, give him a setup. Give him a setup in Brazil. Give him a heavyweight setup in Brazil.
Fine.
Derek Lewis, anyone, just do it.
Yes. Last thing I want to say about this, you had mentioned that we have to give credit to Justin Gaethje, which we do. Max is right. It takes 2 to tango. It's not just that he had to offer the opportunity, but he had to fight a certain way to make that outcome. That's a real thing. Listen, Jamal Hill, this was a bad loss. But number one, he came back to me on an expedited timeline. I'm not sure that was the best thing for him in terms of winning and losing. He might have gotten a big bag for it, so it's a complicated call. But for winning purposes, it didn't do him any favors. And listen, we didn't really know how much rivalry there was going to be between the two. I think his antics, while some people are calling him cringe and they're killing him for it, I think it brought the best out of Poatan, to be perfectly honest with you. So I give credit to both Justin Gaethje as well as Jamal Hill for trying to make in their own ways the fight's bigger and better than they ordinarily would have been.
I'm not mad that Jamal Hill got this fight from a Jamal Hill standpoint. He's an opportunist. They said, can you turn it around in time?
Sure.
He turned around from a serious injury very fast. I know it didn't go his way, but I respect that just the same.
All right, BC, let's talk about the co-main event, which is the thing that was a perfectly fine fight.
It overachieved. It did.
It did. It just didn't. It was hard to stand out on a card like that. My question to you is as follows, BC. Zhang Weili scored a perfectly fine, but I would say ultimately, a fine win over Yan Xiaonan. Is there any big takeaway from this?
No, just that she continues to be the best strawweight of the day right now. And I'm not, again, going to go that the Rose Trilogy fight needs to happen, but it's still the missing link in her being absolutely perfect. She's 9-0 in the UFC facing anyone but Rose Namajunas. And the improvements that she has made from the two Rose Namajunas losses 3 years ago have been incredible, especially on the ground. She was pushed in this fight by Yan Xiaonan's toughness and by the fact that I think Weili poured a little bit too much out in the tank trying to finish her in round 2. But the way that she came back again speaks to championship experience and toughness, speaks to incredible cardio, speaks to knowing how to win a fight, going back to the roots of the ground game, knowing, okay, at the very least I can neutralize her there. And that's how she won the championship rounds and was able to get the win. In a way, it's just that Yan Xiaonan kind of overachieved from a toughness standpoint, from being a big out, a physically tough opponent that I don't think we gave enough credit coming in when we actually broke down the fight, outside of saying that it was kind of miscast in its spot. But Weili is a special all-time great fighter in women's MMA history. And I think it's just another difficult test that became difficult out of nowhere that she still adjusted and passed. And that's what greats do. But Jason Herzog twice kind of gave Yan Xiaonan every possible chance to succeed. Now, so did the tattooed weed referee in Lesnar Carwin, right? Josh Rosenthal. If he doesn't do that,
who's not answered my DMs.
If he doesn't do that, we don't have that all-time great moment. What did you think in general about Jason Herzog not just allowing Yan Xiaonan, who did seem out at the end of round 1 with the choke, to stand up on her own power? Was that the right call within the rule set? And then you easily could have seen that fight stopped in round 2 when the ground and pound sitting on Yan's back, just pounding to the side of her head. I don't know. Sometimes you like when an aging champion who's got that will gets that extra hook. It was too much extra hook, it felt like.
So there was a joke that was going around after the fight, which was not only did Zhang Weili win, she won by first round submission, second round TKO, and then by decision. which is not an unfair thing to say. I mean, listen, I'll say this. I think Jason Herzog, BC, is one of the best referees we have.
He might be the best.
That doesn't mean that they make every decision that you love or every decision that's correct. I actually looked into this. I don't know what the rule is because she lets go of the choke and in the first round, and Xiaonan is there, but these chokes are blood chokes, so you're waiting for circulation to happen to regain full consciousness. I know if a fighter gets rocked, they can't be saved by the bell. Like if they stand up and they're falling over, they might just wave it. She was stumbly, and he actually, like for a minute, I could be getting this detail wrong, but I believe he actually like helps right her posture a little bit. I don't know what the rules are with that.
Yeah.
I looked into it. There's nothing really clearly like, can the referee assist in these circumstances between rounds? I don't know. In the end, the right guy won. And I will also say for Xiaonan, she performed. I mean, listen, she was overmatched, right? She nearly got choked out in the first round. She nearly got stopped in the second round. I thought some of her takedown defense was, relatively speaking, much improved. I thought some of her defense, first round notwithstanding, as the course of the fight went on, it got better and better. It was a perfectly serviceable contender performance in the end. My biggest takeaway from this, though, was, BC, one, again, it doesn't seem like it was possible, but had this fight taken place in China, I think it would have been a better fit. But the big takeaway I had was, how long till Tatiana Suarez is ready?
Great call, because my takeaway was, as much as I love the strawweight division and always have, I think the first UFC fight card I ever attended and covered in person was the finale in December 2014 when Rose lost to Carla Esparza in the final there. But the division is on a little bit of down times, a little bit of hard times right now. Ioana's gone, Rose is gone, Weili's still the business, but the contenders behind her outside of Suarez don't have that threat anymore of being able to win the title on any night. Suarez is the one.
If Suarez
that is
isn't
the
the
fight.
one, if she's not the one, then it's going to be old age that gets her.
Right, but that's the fight to make. In the past, we were like, well, maybe Weili will fight Valentina. I don't need that. Most people don't need Rose in a title fight again. I'm not one of them. I do, but whatever. Tatiana is the fight to make. But if we're going to talk women's MMA, we got to talk Kayla Harrison.
So let's transition to that. We'll stay on this topic here about women's MMA more generally. BC, let's talk about Kayla Harrison's win. What would a fight with Amanda Nunes mean for both of them, for bantamweight, and for the UFC?
If Kayla Harrison does what she teased on Saturday, and by the way, we have to stop and just say, Kayla Harrison is one of one. And I know I'm overusing that term in this show,
She's
but
a fucking
she is.
animal.
She is an animal. She is a winner. She is someone who, the reason why I cheer for her a lot is because her personal story of overcoming and adopting her nieces and nephews and becoming a mom. I mean, it's just incredible. But let's talk about what she did. She cut down to 135 pounds and somehow made it look easy, even though this is absolutely ridiculous for somebody who contested in the Olympics at judo at like 172 and had one fight at 145. And went in there against, I know, an aftermarket Holly Holm, but absolutely dominated her. If Kayla can get into a title fight quick, whether it's next against Raquel or she has to go through Pena or whatever, she would need to do that first. She would need to do that. But if she can become the women's bantamweight champion, which, to be honest, if she's going to look that good again, if she can make that cut again, she would blow away pretty much everybody, I think, in that division, although I'd give Pena a shot. Her against Amanda could be one of the biggest fights in women's history. Is that hyperbole?
No.
I think it could be.
Put the camera on me. Make this fight. Make this fight. Make Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes, and I'm going to tell you why very clearly. Women's MMA desperately needs it. That's why. BC.
Yeah.
I have been saying this, where, yes, some of the women's fights, from a mathematical standpoint, you can see that when we did OK Bet, the chances of them going to decision is higher. I think it's just a natural occupational reality. It doesn't necessarily service women's MMA, but I don't think it's the biggest deal at the end of the world, or the end of the world. However, what I do think is a big deal is right now when you look at the women's game, there are some interesting parts about it. Again, this co-main event, perfectly fine, perfectly action-packed, nothing wrong with it. Not remarkable, but perfectly fine. But there's a lot of perfectly fine right now in the game. You don't hear hardly any stories, Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko notwithstanding, about rivalries, storylines. Dude, when was the last time there was a real deal, no bullshit grudge match in women's
versus
MMA?
Claudia.
This is what I'm talking about. Or you could say Joanna versus
Rousey Tate 2.
Rousey Tate 2. You could also say the Zhang Weili versus Joanna fight wasn't a grudge match and still is the best women's fight. You don't always need them, but I'm just saying you still don't even have the option of them these days. This is a grudge match between when Kayla Harrison says she's the best American judoka ever. she is right. No one has ever won a gold medal except for her. She did it fucking twice. When people say, oh, I'm a world-class athlete, half the time they're bullshitting. It's true when she says it. And she's got beef with the best to ever do it in MMA, and that person wants the smoke.
And a saucy backstory. If you're going to get a women's fight in this case, and I did see a lot of unfortunate people being like, who cares? Holly Holm's washed.
Dude,
Kayla's
fuck those
boring.
losers.
F those people. This was historically relevant, in my opinion, for Kayla to come here and make this weight and dominate like she did. But this has the saucy WWE backstory. They were teammates at ATT. When Amanda was the GOAT and the 2-division champion and the best of the world, she actively basically accused her coaches of favoring Kayla over her, which led her to open up her own gym, and she seems much happier. But I was elated to see that video. We're going to see it, and have you seen this shit, of Amanda doing a selfie in front of it, waiting for Kayla, hoping that she would call her name.
Yeah.
That is great. When you have a champion that retires on their own terms, or any fighter, we salute them, and we did that to Amanda. Her walking away last year was storybook. It was perfect, like Robbie Lawler's. It was just chef's kiss. But the fact that she still has that hunger and unfinished business, Kayla's not trying to be the greatest judoka ever. She's not trying to be the greatest crossover fighter, right? We talked about what Holm did in Poatan. She's trying to be the greatest combat sports athlete of all time, you know, female or otherwise. Like, those are the goals that she's circling. So how big could a fight between her and Amanda, even if it didn't hit commercially, because there are going to be a lot of haters, historically, in something that matters and a matchup that is so interesting? Luke, from what you saw to Kayla, is that reproducible at 135? And if it is, that effort, that ground game, can anyone handle that? Can anyone handle that?
I don't know how many of these weight cuts she can make, and we need to be cognizant of that. Like, she's talking about, I want to be at the title by the end of the year, probably in part because she's got a handful of these she can get away with before her body just says no more. So let's understand that. But this is the thing I want to mention. There was a PFL show in Vegas on Friday. Actually a good show, but in the end, utterly forgettable, like everything PFL does.
Except for the live mic, unfortunately, for Sean O'Connell.
Oh, Sean O'Connell. I love Sean O'Connell. He's actually a great guy.
That's why I didn't put it in the Have You Seen This shit, because I felt bad, because it could happen to anybody, right?
It's like BC with the N-word jokes. You just can't be doing stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
I'm teasing. What I want to say was, in terms of this, dude, look, she had an extra edge, Kayla Harrison did, all week. I think you saw that during the press events. But the thing that really stood out to me was, dude, the elbows and her physicality in this weight class. I don't think making the cut to 135 is great for her, but her physical dominion over these mere mortals is so obvious. And then when you let her have elbows, dude, look at what PFL did to her. Not so much the weight class part, which in that case, I do think they accommodated her quite well, but in limiting her, she can't be this menacing force that you can sell to the public if she doesn't have access to the very tools that make her the menacing figure that you can sell to the public.
Yes.
And under the Ultimate Fighting Championship and the situation she's in now, you get all of that.
And a great backstory if you want to tell that on ESPN aggressively, right? Like, this could be something very big, her coming over and looking like that and dominating the way she did. So, man, I want to see it. I want to see Amanda get hungry and get back in there, but you want to see her go to the title path the right way. So is it right for her to face Pennington next, or do you think the matchup is Pennington versus Juliana Pena and Kayla gets the winner?
So what Kayla's told, I believe, TSN, no, he's up with Sportsnet, excuse me, with Aaron Bronstetter, was that if the fight with Amanda Nunes got offered first, so she didn't get a title shot and it was Nunes first, she would take it.
Ooh.
So my answer is either title shot or Amanda Nunes. Like, this idea that, dude, we need to keep her busy. Like, the clock is ticking with her. She's 33 years old. We've got just a couple of years left in this.
I don't know why everyone's like, Pena has to get the next shot. I mean, she
doesn't.
She doesn't. She's never active, unfortunately. I know she beat Amanda, one of the greatest upsets we've ever seen, and it was emotional, and I loved it. Got dominated in the second. Kevin Iole had her pound for pound #1 as recently as a few weeks ago. But you could go right there with Kayla versus Pennington. They've already been kind of trading trash talk. I think that's the right move right now to set up Amanda for the title if Kayla wins it. Do you think women's featherweight 145 is kept around just in case Kayla can't reproduce this?
Potentially, right? It gives them a little bit of an out. It gives them some flexibility. If there's an opportunity to explore that, they at least have it in their back pocket. Like you, I don't think they have any real designs on 145. But let's say Kayla ends up beating Amanda Nunes and blows up and they want to do the rematch. They could do it at 145, right? And so that case, it gives you just some freedom to play with. But again, one more time, dude, they unleashed a fucking beast with Kayla Harrison. And I am so excited to see it. I just know the sands in the hourglass, the sand grains, they're moving. We don't have a lot of time for her to make this weight consistently. strike while the iron is hot. The women's game needs this so badly.
Agreed.
Let's give it to them. All right.
All right, topic number 4 as we continue. God, there's so many storylines on this card. We said the fight of the night coming in could be the potential #1 contender lightweight bout, and Arman Tsarukyan was poised. He was well game planned. He was tough as nails to eke out a very entertaining split decision over Charles Oliveira to seemingly put himself in the position for a title. Now, subsequently after the fight, Dana White announced it's actually Dustin Poirier that's going to get next. We did see some reports that Tsarukyan was offered the title, but didn't want to turn around. It would have been a 47-day turnaround that quickly. Remember, his whole storyline is the first time he fought Makhachev, it was a short camp, so I respect that. But from the standpoint of the performance, is this title worthy? Should he basically sit in the bullpen and get the winner of Islam versus Dustin at 302?
I'll say yes. Here's where I'm at with Tsarukyan, BC, and tell me if this makes sense. Because I've been high on him, and I'm still high on him. I've been down on him based on some developmental issues like after the Gamrot fight, and I don't want to let all of them go.
Body for days like another Armenian.
First team all body. I mean, first team. Him and Aljamain Sterling, first team all body. I mean, forget it. But when I think about this, it's like, if you look at what he achieved, he beat Charles Oliveira over the course of 3 rounds. My first takeaway, though, that fight should have been 5. Don't know how it would have gone after 5, but it should have been 5. That's number 1. Number 2.
You mean you didn't like that the main event came on at 2 a.m. Eastern time? I mean, what do you want to do here?
I was like, dude, I'm so glad my wife and kid are gone because I would be a horrible husband and father the next day. All right. But what I want to get at, BC, was if I look at this win, getting out of that guillotine choke, incredible grit, then taking him down, and here's what I was looking for because I did a pre-fight breakdown. Islam Makhachev went chest to chest with him on top the entire time. And if you don't give Charles Oliveira any room, his guard never gets going and how you neutralize it. By and large, Tsarukyan pulled off the same game plan, which means he had real pre-fight strategy in place.
Yes.
And he executed it with strong defensive responsibility. That's exactly the kind of thing you want to see. On the other hand, he also kind of eked it out. On the other hand,
yeah, well, Charles is nasty.
Charles is nasty. But what the point I'm trying to make is, I don't think it in any way makes the win look bad. That's not what I'm saying. What you're asking is, imagine someone runs for office and they barely win. Do they have what's called the political mandate to start instituting their reforms? Often not. But if someone wins, like Ronald Reagan did in the 80s, with some gigantic landslide, now the wind is at your back. And now, like Max, you can start calling shots and you can start asking for things and people will have demand for it. BC, was this the kind of win in your mind that gives him mandate? It's impressive. I value it. If he's the next guy, fine. I didn't exactly see mandate
I
there.
guess I get what you're saying. If he had knocked him out, which would have been a huge feat.
Or in that 3rd round, really just stuck it to him.
Then it would have been a greater argument. Now, it does seem to be, I mentioned that report that he was offered the fight. And you can argue whether that was the perfect decision on what, 47, 48 days notice if you already had to take a short camp the first time. I can understand that. What I don't want to see is then he has to pass another test, because would it have been better if he demonstratively finished him? Of course. But we had questions not about his power or his wrestling. We had questions more about those intangibles. I mean, that knockout of Beneil Dariush seemed to be like a breakthrough for him, that he could be nasty on this next level, putting his entire game together. What we still didn't necessarily know is when you're in there with someone who's a chaos doctor like Oliveira, can you match him in stamina? Can you outthink him? Can you carry out the game plan? This wasn't as dramatic in an upscale of his ability of what I thought coming in as what Dricus Duplessis did to ultimately take the middleweight title. But in some degrees, it mirrors that to me. He showed us in this fight all the intangibles that I need to see, even though it was only 3 rounds and not 5. So I'm not saying you can perfectly adapt that and guess where he would have been in rounds 4 and 5. But that choke was Volkanovski Ortega looking deep in that 2nd round. And he also, or 1st round, whatever it was. And he also avoided a Darce choke at the end of round 3, clowning out the seconds that I know maybe looks bad, but he still got the win. I still scored it 2-1 for him, which I'm sure you did.
Yep.
He answered the real tough, serious questions, because Oliveira's no freaking joke. And he went to 2nd and 3rd elements of his game plan and dug deep to try to rally and come back. And Tsarukyan still didn't break. And Luke, our analysis coming in of both of us picking Oliveira as the hot underdog and basically saying, look,
I picked Tsarukyan in the end.
Okay, but the basis for a lot of us was, when it turns up and gets crazy, all Tsarukyan has to do is make that one mistake, whether it's in top position or it's on the feet, and Charles can close that door in a second. that mistake never happened and he was in some deep territory. So he showed me championship guile. I don't think he should have to pass any more tests. I think that, look, the reason he didn't accept the fight was probably because they asked him right after the win and such a short turnaround. But if he heals up, if he gets ready and gets game planned, he is a legitimate challenge for Islam, who's been dominating people. The storyline makes sense. It's perfect, right? The only loss that he's had since that fight was the Gamrot fight, which was disputed, and you could have thought Tsarukyan won that anyway. What else do you need from this Hulk? Again,
I
let's
agree.
do it.
I agree. He should not need to pass any more tests. I'm not even sure who would be available if he needed to be perfectly honest with you, because we're going to talk about Conor and Chandler here in just a second. But the thing for me was, it's like, as impressive as it was to beat Charles Oliveira, as much growth as he showed, I think he's still got a few more gears to go before he really,
He's not perfect.
before he settles into like the kind of ability that would make me think he could win and defend a title.
Okay.
To me, what he showed was he can compete with the elite of the division. Did he show you that he can hold a title and defend it? I'm less committed to that. After Islam beat Charles, you were like, oh yeah, that fucker can hold it. You know what I mean? He can hold it. So
I want to see, by the way, because the champion had a name, Luke, and Oliveira had his swing there, and he was reborn, I thought, from the Dariush knockout win, but
he's
he
still
didn't get the
competitive
W
with
here.
anybody.
I'd like to see him in the BMF lane. I'd like to see that BMF title
That's such a great idea.
defended. I don't. What I don't want to see for
By the way,
it.
Max and Charles have history. They already fought one time.
And here's what I don't want to see for BMF. I don't want it to be a thing where you just put that label on any fight you want to make. I actually want to see the title get defended. I actually want to see there be a lineage of it, right?
Yes.
I think a lot of these guys should realize, as long as they're getting paid, are they getting paid title level?
Yes, they get pay-per-view points.
If they're getting pay-per-view points and they're getting paid, then this is perfect because it's that fun extra title. But I think Oliveira is perfect for this division at this age.
This is what I mean. Fighters make the title, not the other way around. You put Charles Oliveira in that lineage, you would have Max, former weight class champion, Charles, former weight class champion, Gaethje, former interim champion. This is the kind of thing that you need to see. People like, oh, does the BMF belt mean anything? It depends who you book to fight in it. That's what it means.
That's true. Do you think we should have a female one?
Yes. Well, again, I would love to see the game get to a point where the organic demand for it arrived.
Sure.
That's, I guess, what I would say. All right, BC. Not a whole lot to say on this one, but I do have to talk about it. Question number 5 for us here as we get through is, Bo Nickal, again, fought what I would call perfectly fine. Not amazing, but perfectly fine. However, I do think he struggled relative to expectations, certainly the odds, against Cody Brundage. Is it time to pump the brakes on the Bo Nickal hype?
It's like yes and no, which I know that's sort of fence straddling, but the whole point is this.
It's a very Luke Thomas answer.
We were expecting, I guess, on the hype and the odds and the way that he's finished everybody, for him to just go in there, duck a punch, take him down, put on the submission, and be like, okay, is he going to fight for the title next? Like, what are we doing here? No, he's not that guy. I mean, who is that guy? Chimaev looked like that guy for a minute, and even he's had a little bit of hitting the brakes for different reasons. No, in the overall lineage of where he's going, this is how you build a special, unique prospect. You escalate up. People were crapping on Cody Brundage. The odds makers were like, this guy's got no chance. Yet he came in there, stuck on his best chance, which is come in there with the big bomb, try to make it a real fight, and actually landed some things and looked like he rocked Nickal. And I did like afterwards that Bo was harsh on himself, maybe too harsh. Even Dana was like,
no, I don't think he was too harsh. He underperformed.
Okay, but he still like controlled almost all of the action,
Yes.
never got into any serious trouble, and put him away. But people do owe Cody Brundage a little bit of respect. I mean,
I agree.
his
I thought
defensive
he would
wrestling.
he did much better than I did.
was
That one time
game.
he threw him by.
This was the test we needed to see.
Yeah.
A young, aggressive guy who can wrestle a little bit as well and has a college background. I thought it was really kind of played out perfectly, because if we don't see Bo Nickal in any kind of resistance before he's in a really big fight, whether it's number one contender, whether it's the title, whether it's against just a huge celebrity name, you're never going to really know. Should he be here? Is he that great? I know what he can do in certain matchups is incredible. You needed to see this. So I don't hold this against him. You only hold this against him if you're expecting Bo Nickal to sub everybody within 2 minutes, no matter of their talent level, the style contrast, or their experience, right? If you're expecting that, it's not realistic. Outside of that, I don't know if he actually should be that harsh, Luke. I don't know if he should be that harsh on him. He took care of business against a hungry young guy on a 2-fight win streak.
I got to tell you, I think he should be harsh on himself. And here's what I'm going to say. Is it time to pump the brakes on the hype? A little, yes. I don't understand fans. I mean, I guess I do, but like, you know, when Raul Rosas Jr. gets his first, I think 2 fights were on pay-per-view cards and on main cards at that. And I understand that. Like, they're trying to promote a kid who is valuable at the marketplace, potentially has a bright future. We don't really know, but, you know, it's certainly something worth investigating. And everyone sort of cheers it. And I get it, because it's like, oh, look at this young guy up against the odds. Isn't this a cool story? Whereas with Bo, it's like, here's not exactly silver spooned, but he's got all these credentials. He's the hothead kind of a thing. So there's a bit of a difference there. But I'll just say this. I was actually very underwhelmed with his performance. To your point, he performed fine. He did what he was supposed to do. He did what you thought he could do. And getting to the second round will prove a valuable experience to him. But I think it's time for him to earn it a little bit more. The matchmaking needs to be better, which is not his fault. They can only offer him who they're offering him. But I think he needs to get a better, tougher fight and on a bit of a smaller card. He could headline a fight night on the road, something like that. Give him a place where he can really both be in the spotlight, but have that kind of trench warfare experience that lets you be still a centerpiece of the organization's future, but also kind of earn where you're supposed to be. Also kind of convince the fans that you have to be liked. I didn't like how he was slugging it out with Cody early.
I didn't like he didn't have a name at the end. Rogan had to go back 2 and 3 times. And
it felt, and he felt off. I think the pressure got to him a little bit. You know, for a guy who had been doing amazing things in wrestling, it looked to me like that was had an effect. I am still high on him. When I say pump the hype, I mean, he could just fight for a title in the next year. No, I don't think that's possible.
You got to see him beat a Jack Hermanson type.
That's exactly right.
I want to see him.
I want a gritty veteran who's smart, who has some losses but had some great wins, who's tougher than expected, who is
well-rounded,
who's done 5 rounds.
Yep,
that's who I want to see him against. And you start. By the way, if Bo Nickal starts beating those guys, forget about it. He's going to be exactly everything you thought he was. But I think it's time. He has had the wind at his back in a few different ways. And it's fine if he went out there and just blew the fucking doors off of Cody. He beat him soundly. He didn't impress.
You got to face adversity. He faced it. He adjusted. He finished the fight. I mean, you know
how
what I mean?
much? To your point, did I undersell how much Cody would resist? I got that wrong.
Yes.
But the sloppiness of some of the striking early, which I think even he would admit, I like Bo Nickal. I've interviewed him a couple times. He seems like a smart, nice guy. But even he was throwing things recklessly. Fuck no, dude. No. If you want hype to really follow you the right way, we got to get rid of that shit. So that's the kind of thing that I think really needs to be taken out of his game, taken out of his experience.
Okay, so he's not fighting Izzy next. That's what we're going to pump those brakes. Okay,
I mean, you even saw. I mean, Khamzat Chimaev's like, I'll fight anybody 5 times a day, and never fights anyone. But he was right. He's like, this is your king. It's like, I kind of get it. Now, BC, I got a question to ask live on air. We still have a lot to get to in minimal amounts of time.
Sure.
Let me reset here. We have Jorge Masvidal scheduled to join us in about 30 minutes. Do we want to talk a little Conor and then come back to the prelim card a little bit later?
Let's do topic number 6, which was, an amazing night for the UFC. An absolutely incredible UFC 300. And then at 2:15 a.m. on the East, Dana goes into the post-fight press conference.
And they hand him a piece of paper.
It is like all right, I guess we're doing this. So here's the deal. June 1st, UFC 302, Newark, New Jersey. We have a main and co-main event. Islam Makhachev will defend the lightweight title, reportedly after Tsarukyan turned down the short turnaround against Dustin Poirier. Co-main event will be Sean Strickland in a 5-round fight against Paulo Costa. And later that month, in the second pay-per-view of that calendar month, June 29th, International Fight Week, Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler is finally happening. 36 and 37 years old. And unfortunately, with The Ultimate Fighter, with the Roadhouse movie commitments, this has been dragged out. USADA, this has been dragged out really long. Luke, how big, though, is Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler on IFW still in 2024?
I don't think it will be as big as even the Cerrone fight, which had an enormous I'm back kind of feel.
Yes, and I'm wholesome.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't, I'm the elder statesman returning to the game. It won't have that. And it won't have the same kind of grudge match feel that he had with Poirier, who he had dismantled, early in his career. Then, of course, he had the second fight, which was not that great for him, and then the third one where the injury is. I mean, there are any number of issues that have plagued Conor. We have missed almost all, if not all, of the second half of his prime. Right, to your point, he'll be 36 by the time that fight takes place, or right around it.
So he definitely can't win the UFC welterweight title or anything else below that anymore.
In all likelihood, probably not. By the way, this fight will be at 170, not 155, for anyone who's keeping tabs on that. Conor's going to be big. He's always going to be big. This will not be one of his biggest fights, even though I still think it will do probably over 1 million buys. Here's what I'm going to say. You just don't know how many more of these you're going to get. It is possible, certainly. He goes in there and starches Mike Chandler like he did Eddie Alvarez. Would you be surprised? I wouldn't. Michael Chandler fights risky, and risky shit happens.
I also
to
wouldn't
him.
be surprised if Conor gasses out after having an explosive round 1 and loses, or just breaks his leg again.
Right.
Because it, straight up honesty, it does not look at all like Conor has been living the Spartan lifestyle.
This is what I mean. It's like between the time off and the injury and the questions about sobriety. By the way, issues in the courtroom as well as a whole other thing.
And it's not just sobriety. It's like, you know, you hear things. You hear things from people that are connected there. You see things in a lot of videos and the promotional stuff with Jake Gyllenhaal, and Conor's barely able to speak.
I think he can recapture magic, but this is the juncture. We're at the Conor McGregor junction where is he still a big star? Of course. Of course. Will it sell over a million pay-per-view buys? Probably so, right? But we're at this juncture where if he lost bad again, it's not like you think, oh, well, the end is here for us. But what I am saying is, as if he is going to make any kind of opportunity at something bigger, where he's always been about what? Escalation. Every time Conor comes back, it's escalation. But that's really not what he's facing here. This is more,
are you going to lose this and go directly into the Nate fight to cash you out for the trilogy or not?
That's right. That's exactly right. Because he has limited time left. Yes. He's probably not going to do a bunch of these. If this is a brutal loss, it really puts into question how much more of this is even possible. Or he goes in there and just one punch KOs him, and dude, all of a sudden the world is going to be his oyster again. People will want to see him back, but not if he looks like a shell of himself.
And he's got to, even if he loses to Chandler, and then even if he won or lost against Nate, it's really important that he stays competitive and that he doesn't fall apart, whether that's injury-wise or stamina-wise or whatever, because could be a BMF rematch with Max Holloway, which would be another massive payday.
Another
that
huge fight, yes.
So that's interesting. The alternate news there is 3-0. So 301 in Brazil, whether Poatan gets on there or not, I'm sorry, like the card's really bad.
The Usyk fight versus Pantoja, it's not going to sell any pay-per-view buys, but it is a good fight.
After WrestleMania, the month after, WWE always does, we call it Pay Backlash. It's either called Backlash or sometimes it's called Payback, and it's like this retread thing. So 301 stinks, and the fight nights around it stink. But how big is 302 now in your eyes? Newark, New Jersey, June 1st, same night, by the way, as Masvidal versus Diaz, the boxing rematch. But Dustin Poirier star power inserted in to the one big name lightweight he hasn't fought yet.
Story.
And it's also the championship.
I think Islam's a bigger star. Globally, I don't know about nationally, but globally, I think he's a bigger star.
No, I said you're inserting Dustin Poirier's star power into this pay-per-view.
So here comes Poirier with this massive win over BSD that completely rejuvenates him. Not as much as what Max got against Justin Gaethje, but still pretty goddamn big, huge. And now you're going to put him into this title fight. I think he's overmatched when they've talked about who has the better career. Certainly, Poirier has more A-tier wins than what Makhachev has, but Makhachev obviously beat Charles Oliveira. He's a full weight class champion. That's eluded Dustin Poirier. It's an incredible story. It's the protege of Khabib who also choked out Dustin Poirier. It's probably Poirier at 35 years of age, probably his last chance to really go for a title at this point, although BMF, but let's say weight class title, probably the last chance to go for a weight class title. Huge stakes. So you're getting this big infusion of star power. Islam is a star. Dustin Poirier certainly is a star as well. You get backstory there. You get protege stories. You get this is your last chance story. You get action fight story. Potentially, Islam is defensive, but, you know, Poirier is going to bring it. I actually think it's going to make that pay-per-view enormous. Being in Newark is great for us, except for the part where we might get shanked in the parking lot. I don't know how that's going to go.
I'm not going to the Newark Penn train station at all, unless they're having horses run wild to get on the tracks, or moose, or whatever the hell that was.
I think it was a bull.
Sorry, one day it was a bull. The next day it was
COVID.
COVID.
Yeah,
there
yes,
you go. I
that
won't
was
make
just
any
running
bad
loose,
disease
yes.
jokes. Co-main of Strickland versus Costa. It's a good ass fight.
I fucking love this fight. Don't you love this fight?
It will be. It will be a great action fight. It matters in terms of who's coming or going in the title picture still. Is the winner going to get, you know, right back in there into another big fight? And I think it pairs
5
well.
rounds too, I believe.
It is 5 rounds, and I think it pairs well with the main event. So I'm down with that. But here's the real question in this. Because you're already predicting Topuria is going to beat Max, basically.
I don't think anyone at 145 can beat him right now.
Does Dustin Poirier have a legitimate chance at pulling an upset here and having his own Max old guy moment? And Dustin's had a bunch of great old guy moments. He constantly reinvents himself just like Max. Gets head kicked by Gaethje.
I mean, here's the
beats
thing.
BSD.
Okay. Islam has better grappling and wrestling than BSD and makes far fewer errors.
That's the key. Never makes errors, dude. Almost
so
never.
It's like, Dustin Poirier is one of the hardest hitters ever at lightweight. Make no mistake about it. And has proven me wrong at times, proven you wrong at times, proved me right at times too. has been there and done that. But stated plainly, Islam Makhachev is a bad matchup for him. That doesn't mean it's impossible.
Sure.
But gun to my head, are you picking Dustin Poirier?
No, but it would be a great moment.
Oh my God,
Would be a great
dude!
moment.
I mean, set the scene here. Here is a guy who has tried to win the title a couple of different times, didn't go his way, did get the interim title, does have stoppages over Eddie Alvarez, over Gaethje,
But it didn't
over
go
Conor.
his way in a big way. He got the crap kicked out of him by Habib.
Yes.
And also the Charles title fight too. And that's no negative stamp against his great career.
Those are two fucking great fighters.
But
Yeah.
like we built up this great story of 25 minutes for the rest of your life and all that. And
Yeah,
he's come
25
up,
minutes to make life fair.
and he's come up empty. He'll get one more big chance. It's like the odds are probably going to shut him out. I haven't seen the early
I mean,
odds,
at this
but-
point, he's getting checks from Celsius, Bud Light,
Yes.
and Samsung. I think life's become fair for him
Oh,
a little
yes.
bit.
It's very
which he
fair in
earned.
that
Which he
regard.
earned. I'm just saying, it's the one thing that has eluded him. When you think about your prize fighting career and what you want, like, do you want legendary fights? Check.
Yes.
Do you want fan adoration? Maybe not all of them do, but comes with the thing. Check. Did you make some big money? He made some big money. Check. Did you beat some of the biggest names that you had in your generation? Did you fight the toughest guys? Fucking check. Were you a world champion? Not yet.
Not
That's
yet.
the last piece of the puzzle here. It's just the matchup he has
It's
is
uphill.
a fucking tough
But
one.
not impossible. I mean, how many times? We really have to constantly remind ourselves that no matter what we think, and whenever there's a rare, sort of somewhat lopsided title fight because there's star power involved, really, for me, it was Nunes Pena. Just reminded me that like anything is possible on any given night. Back to UFC 300 because there's so many storylines.
We got to
here.
go rapid fire on the prelim card.
I want to talk just the thing that stood out to me the most: Yuri Prochazka.
Just I was watching that fight with Othello, and he's like, "Dude, Yuri's going to lose. He's getting tagged." I'm like, "Hold up,
Yeah, hold that.
Let
hold
him
that.
cook.
Yeah, please. I love, by the way, that he got pissed off about the "you're not a samurai" thing, so that fueled him. I love the weird fan videos of him outside the arena the night
On
before
Toshiba
manifesting
Plaza?
it, which is really great. I mean, I understand what he's doing visually, like that's his process, and I loved hearing him in the post-fight press conference have to sort of break it down and say, "I'm not a creeper, guys. This is." But Luke, he went in there against Rakic. Let's put a lot of respect. After 2 years off and a serious injury in that first round, he looked like $1 million. He's piecing Yuri up. But this is what Yuri does. He lures you into an absolute war and then has better firepower and can outlast it. Dude, he took ridiculous shots and just shook his head.
Dude, here's the weird part. Alexander Rakic looked awesome for long stretches
So,
of the fight.
My point is, Prochazka can beat anyone on
Anybody.
any given night. If he gets back into a Poatan rematch, which I'm sure UFC would want for the potential action and all that, like it wouldn't be wrong if you favored him. Even if
I'll say this: when Yuri's chin goes, he's in trouble.
Sure.
He's in trouble. But right now, his durability is insane. His commitment is insane. He's a good athlete too, obviously. And that was, dude, that win. This is what I mean about, you know why those wins all felt so good in the time that they had them? Everyone's win was like a defining of their personality.
Yes.
Max's win was. Here's Yuri, where he's getting just fucking bombed on, and he finds a way to come back.
Hainato Moicano too. Money Moicano had the same type of win. Underdog.
Let's talk about
almost
that
gets
quickly.
stopped.
Jalen Turner just let him recover. All-time UFC mistake.
Yeah, Leon Lett, Don Beebe, Super Bowl that time in Pasadena. It reminds me of that, right? It's just sort of like those damn moments when you probably could have got it. I don't know if he finishes him. Do you automatically think that he blew a finish? I get that he blew an
I do think he
opportunity.
blew a finish, yes.
But dude, Moicano was such a great personality. He delivered the promo that you expect
Yes, he
afterwards.
did.
I want to see him in big ass BMF fight, or I mean, not everybody can fight for the BMF title, but you get my point. I want to see him in fun, colorful fights. I know that Moicano can also climb the ladder and get into contention, but we need more of him on television, Luke. That's like seriously, break that personality out.
Aljamain Sterling, very quickly. Here's my take. I don't think he convinced UFC matchmakers to give him a title shot.
No,
There's no conversation. But put away how impressive you thought it was. I thought it was super impressive.
Agreed.
Doing that to Calvin Kattar, even your guy, who was Abe Lincoln from Dagestan, Zabit.
Yes.
Even
yes,
Zabit
yes.
couldn't do that. And Aljamain Sterling did. Aljamain Sterling didn't have the kind of performance that made fans or matchmakers want to fast track him to the front. But did it show he can compete with the elite of this division, at least on his terms? 1,000%. 1,000%. He might be a tougher fight for Topuria in certain ways than Josh Emmett. Well, Josh Emmett got kind of cleaned out too, but
He's back after that Bryce Mitchell knockout, right?
Say again?
Isn't Emmett back on a hot streak after that Bryce Mitchell KO?
But he got washed by
Sure.
Topuria. I'm just saying, I think he's going to be a surprisingly tricky matchup in this weight class. It's just a question of how many hills he has to climb.
Yeah, not going to be
get the
super
title
exciting,
shot.
but never really has. It's always matchup dependent. But I was happy for him that he got the win, and I mean, Diego Lopez. I mean, there's so many great stories. Luke,
Last
but we
question.
gotta-
Last question on the prelims, but more generally, the $300K bonus. Nice to see people get it, and I'm sure there were some backstage bonuses Dana talked about he's going to take care of. For example, Bobby Green and Jim Miller, who did not get the official bonus, but I'm
Right.
sure got something in the end. I don't see any evidence it actually changed the way that anybody fought.
I disagree.
Who?
Even though, but
Give me
like,
an example.
okay, I know you're going to say, well, then give me the exact example. I just felt in general that mixed with the heightened sort of tension of it being 300 and a historic anniversary card. And by the way, that crowd was on fire.
Crowd was good.
I regret not being there. I was there the night before. I flew into Vegas for 11 hours and turned it around on a red eye to cover from home. Now I'm like, I should have forced my way in just to feel that Max moment there. It was absolutely incredible. But now I've lost track of where I
I'm
was.
just going to say, listen, did Max and Justin fight their heart out? No question.
No, yeah, sorry,
But,
it
but
raised
they
the
would have
stakes.
done that anyway.
Well,
Jim
I don't
and,
know. I saw people, Bobby Green, I saw people absolutely commit to the idea that, look, this is life-changing money. This is like retirement home. This is like that lake
didn't
house.
see
This
any
is-
evidence. I saw guys, like if you were on this card, chances are you were in certain, depending on your style, you were already in action fight. This idea that like, oh, these guys have never fought this way. They've all fought this way before.
Okay, but across the board, it brought everybody from.
I'm not saying
up-
extra money is bad.
It
I'm
brought
saying did
everybody
extra money.
15% raised in terms of their franticness. In terms
I
of their
think you're I
tension.
think you're reading into something that
Ten-
just didn't happen. I'm not saying extra money is bad. I'm saying did extra money noticeably transform fights? I don't think you can
See, I
say
say
that.
yes. That feeling. You're saying it's just the 300. I'm caught up in the drug of 300.
Or tough fights. I mean, there's guys who are in tough fights. Like, but do you really believe that like if the bonuses were still 50, that and the fight had played out just as it had, that Max wouldn't have pointed to the floor? He already did it against Lamas.
Yeah, he has big huevos.
He would have done that shit no matter what. It's just he should have been rewarded for whatever he did. All right. BC, you want to talk a little Haney Garcia?
Let's do it.
One more reminder, 12:30, we're supposed to be joined by Jorge Masvidal. We'll see how that goes. But right now, BC, it is Haney Garcia fight week. It is. First question to you. Help us out here, boxing guy. Isn't the biggest storyline heading into this fight the mental health or lack thereof of Ryan Garcia?
It is. And if you've been following the Ryan Garcia social media, like
You were there, you saw him.
I saw him as I hosted the Masvidal Diaz press conference on Friday in Vegas, and Ryan's brother is on the undercard against the son of Fernando Vargas, and there's like a blood war, and it got interesting. Ryan comes up and is talking trash and all that. I could easily say, man, he looked like he was partying and he looked crazy. But then again, he comes live on Instagram later and says, everybody thinks I'm drinking, but I'm not. I'm fooling you. So here's the deal. I don't actually know what percentage of Ryan Garcia's last 3 months is actively trying to troll and fool people, or legitimate mental health activation, or substance abuse, or whatever. Either way, I don't think he's accomplished anything close to. Now, look, the proof will be in the pudding, as Floyd always says, in the pay-per-view numbers and how big this fight will be. DAZN pay-per-view Saturday, Barclays Center. It's a big deal. 2 young stars. But I just feel like Ryan has like tarnished his reputation in major ways with a lot of this behavior. I don't actually know how much of it is an act. I do think he's trying to, at the very least, fool Haney and fool the public into the idea that he's not taking this seriously. But I think physically you can see it just seems, I assume he is with Derek James as his trainer, but he's switching trainers left and right like crazy. We don't really know. To me, it comes down to this. If you're going to watch this fight, and I think you have to see what's going to happen here. And it's 2 big, great stars, and it could be fun, even though we're all saying, look, if Ryan is not where he should be mentally, man, maybe Haney picks him apart. The real question might not be, Luke, is he mentally healthy enough? Because they did do tests. They did their diligence. His mental health has been played up in the DAZN pre-fight documentary series but Ryan in that series is saying, guys, I'm playing you. Okay, well, let's put that mental health aside and basically use it to make my next point. Can this image he's giving of recklessness play into the ring and make him as dangerous as possible early in the fight until Haney inevitably figures him out and most likely finishes him with a perfectly placed counter shot? Can Ryan Garcia, who in 6 amateur fights between the ages of 9 and 16, does have 3 victories over Haney? Obviously, they're at different ages. Who knows, right? It's an amateur fight, 1 minute round or 2 minute round, 1 minute rounds. I mean, it's like, it's so different.
At
Obviously,
the
from
age
the
at which
pros.
they fought, I don't think it's
No,
3.
and Haney has obviously escalated to a top 5 pound for pound since then. But Luke, Ryan Garcia is dangerous. He has power from his speed. His speed is dynamic. If you've seen the videos of him warming up, showcasing that speed, I mean, it's legit. Can he be more reckless and dangerous than he tried to be in the early rounds against Tank Davis, which I think he was playing a little bit more chess? And if he is, is he a live dog in this fight? Because I think we're past the mental health question to a degree that all powers that be checked into it, and they're happy with what
I know.
it is.
I can't. They looked at it like maybe he's just stupid. I don't know.
See, I wanted to ask you that in a loose way. Like, is he miscalculated this so badly,
Yeah,
or does he just not know how to?
I mean, understand who Devin Haney is at this point, right? I was not down on Devin Haney, but I wasn't super convinced about him. I needed to see more evidence, and what I have seen is not just success, but the meticulous and very strategic planning, the intentionality that he and his father had with a plan that was in place years ago. I mean, you don't just get to where he's going by like, oh, you have to show up and just win. No, you have to like really think about every single move you have to make. What's the right fight? What's the right time? Under what conditions? How do I have to train? This is a guy who's got people watching tape for him, who doesn't drink, who doesn't smoke, who doesn't stay out late, or doesn't do these things, who lives, but relatively speaking, certainly, a much more disciplined, monastic kind of life. Brawl a boxer, box a brawler. And so maybe by making it crazy and using some of that speed and power, he can cause some problems early. He is going to leave too many openings. And that weird shoulder roll that he does.
You can't bring that up.
And the strategic effort, it's hard for me to believe. Does Ryan have gifts that are dangerous that you cannot look the other way on? No question. But does he seem to you, I'm not saying pure, is he okay? I'm saying, does he seem competitively in the right frame of mind to deal with someone who is so single task focused, who is so cross your T's and dot your I's, who is so careful yet so diligent? I don't think he is,
okay,
dude.
To win a decision? No. But here's what I want to say about the Ryan character that he seems to be playing, and obviously there seems to be some elements of real in here, and I don't know where he's at mentally. But
Did you
I'll
talk
say
to
this.
him?
I did talk to him.
I mean, not like in stage, I mean behind
not
stage.
off camera. And he's out of control, and he's showing his abs, and he's trying to show everybody in a way what we're saying, that like, look, I'm fooled, y'all. I got you guys to focus on this fight. But Luke, you could argue that his only real chance is to lean exclusively on his positives, which is to come out guns blazing, to basically say, I've got 4 or 5 rounds to hurt Haney and try to turn this fight in my direction. You could argue, Luke, tell me if I'm crazy on this, that if this is a play, and I'm not saying it's a good troll job, I'm saying it's probably negative. It probably hurts the pay-per-view numbers at the end of the day in some weird ways because people don't think he has a chance. But isn't he potentially playing into his only real chance? Like 100, 1000%, basically saying my only real chance is my physicality, my speed, and with the power that comes from that, and the fact that I'm big and long and I can just attack. He's kind of setting that stage perfectly in that regard with this crazy mindset. Like the only weakness Haney has is that one moment against Jorge Linares when he got rocked by a shot and then basically circled away and held for the last few rounds and kind of coasted to a victory. Since then, Haney's never really looked vulnerable and he's been almost perfect. Can Ryan find that one spot in the Death Star, Luke? I think at the very least, he seems to be going all in to give him that one chance. Meaning, when Ryan knocked out Luke Campbell, the biggest and best win of his career, right? Got off the canvas and beat a gold medalist in the Olympics and a true title contender who never got over the hump as a pro. But we said, look, he's not perfect. There's a lot of potential flaws that'll get him, but he might be like terrible Terry Norris, who, by the way, went to the Hall of Fame and was an all-time great fighter, but had that one big weakness, that chin, and basically just was a gunslinger, good boxer, of course, but went in there to try to get you before you get him. Isn't that Ryan Garcia's best chance and maybe only chance to win this? So if that's the case...
So the answer is yes, but pitching it back to you, okay, yes is the answer. But my question would be, okay, but how... It's his best chance. It's his only chance. So I'm saying okay,
play
it's his only
into
chance.
that.
It's still highly improbable. I mean, here's the one thing I'll say. Tank Davis doesn't get enough credit for actually how strategic and thoughtful and what a careful decision maker he is. Everyone talks about his power, which is legit, but that's not the only story about him. Devin Haney doesn't have that. He doesn't have Tank's power. But he's got a lot of that boxing ability, if not more. That's up for debate, but certainly he's on par, if not in excess of it. Ryan can't break that guy down. He just has to get lucky. You're not going to make Devin Haney make mistakes. He might make one, and then you can take advantage of it. He's not going to make them for you.
He's got to get...
And Garcia is not that guy. So you might be saying, oh, it's his best, it's his only chance. And I'm still saying, even if that's true, it's still exceedingly unlikely.
For sure. But he's got to lean into his offensive strengths and go after Haney. I don't mean recklessly, but I mean persistent behind that quick jab, try to throw that left hook he doesn't see coming and put that pressure. It's really his only chance. He's not going to outbox him over 12. And I think when you look back at his performance against Tank, he kind of pressed on the gas at the wrong times, did it too sloppily. And then once he got knocked down by Tank, the rest of the time he's just sort of, scared and circling away. There can't be any of that. If he's going to play the role of this crazy guy that's trying to fool all of us, then I think he has to play that role in the ring too. That's all I'm saying. And if he's going to do that, and if this is his only chance and maybe he recognizes that, that's fine. But with the whole question of not knowing exactly where he's at and how much of this is an act or it isn't, I don't know. Like, I don't think this is going to happen, that him and Derek James are working on ironing out all of the technical problems in his game and that he's going to come out behind his jab and box from distance and suddenly surprise us. No, that's not going to happen, right?
Highly unlikely.
So he's got to come out there and be offensive and go after him early. And in that sense, not likely that he gets the job done, but I still need to see it, Luke. I still need to see it because I don't know where Ryan Garcia is going to go from here.
Let's talk about
if it's back-to-back big knockout losses and big fights.
I was just going to ask, back-to-back stoppages, what happens? Or not back-to-back, because I think he's had a fight since the Tank fight, right?
Here's the thing. It's like, I know he's trying to fool us, and he is in the great shape, and he is putting in the time supposedly in there, but he's all over social media so aggressively and trying to lead people in every other way. Is he really studying the opponent? Is he really like living it mentally where he needs to be? Luke, I feel like he's got one foot out of the door already in this sport. I feel like he's obsessed with the influence scene. He's obsessed with trying to lure the Paul brothers into some trash talk, lure O'Malley. I don't think Ryan Garcia wants to be here in the long run. I think that's why he looked at the options and said, okay, let's do Haney now. Let's just rush into it. I don't think if he gets knocked out brutally, I don't even think it's like, okay, well, now he's Amir Khan and he's still going to want to do big fights, whatever. Like, I question what road he's going to go down after that because I don't think he really wants this. And I think maybe in some degree, even though I'm trying to talk myself into the idea that maybe he's playing this character because it leads into his best and only chance to be the crazy offensive force early in that fight, maybe he also knows that he doesn't have the true discipline to do this and to truly get through the holes in his game. And maybe this is his way of making a lot of money and a lot of noise and then transitioning that star into something else. He's got, he's trying to sing, he's trying to act, he's trying to...
The tickets for this fight are not selling well. I don't know how it will do on pay-per-view. Probably pretty well. But this is what I was thinking about. Tell me if you think I'm on to something here. On the one hand, Ryan is making a lot of headlines with his behavior, and that is attracting some attention. But at the same time, it's not attracting the same kind of attention that he had with Tank, where there was like this aspirational, this kid might do it. This is more like, oh, he might self-destruct.
This is X-Pac.
I'm kind of watching through my fingers a little bit with this. Am I onto something with that?
Yes, this is go home heat in pro wrestling. This would be like you're too cringe, you're too much, like just go away. Yeah, he's getting that response. That's why I'm saying this is more of a negative to his brand and the potential pay-per-view sales, in my opinion, that he's acting this way. Because at least in the Tank one, in the build to that, he was leaning on the idea, I'm unbeaten, I'm the star, I'm not afraid of this challenge, I'm going to go after it, I'm daring to be great. And now it feels like he's just daring to potentially cash himself out, unless he has really put this is the greatest troll job ever, and he's going to come out there and be better than he ever has. I'll obviously give him that chance. I can't wait to see this fight, Luke. I'm kind of regretting that I'm not going to be there in person, but because I think it's going to be a spectacle. And I do think Devin Haney, once again, despite all this Ryan craziness, he's going to use Ryan's star power to rub up against him, probably going to get the win. And now you can go from Lomachenko to Regis Prograis at 140 and getting a title, Ryan Garcia. Boots Ennis just got signed to Matchroom under the DAZN. I
was going to ask you. So let's say Haney gets a great win, similar to Tank, whatever that means. What ends up happening to Devin Haney the rest of 2024?
I don't think anyone's going to rush into a Boots Ennis fight. There's no money there
That's
necessarily.
Also 147.
Right. You're going to have to build to that. Haney, I think, will eventually go to welterweight, and I think will be a force there. Oh, I do.
Okay.
I see the body. I see the ability to fill out on the shoulders.
I bet you do see that body.
The long arms. But I think there's enough fun names at 140. The whole idea of him, can he ever get Tank into some type of catchweight fight, or will Tank come up to 140 of him if Haney's star gets big enough? Well, if he goes out there and knocks out Ryan Garcia after the build that we have had here, his star will get even higher. I think you look at Subriel Matias, who has a belt. You look at a lot of the big names that were at 35
who have all moved to Matchroom,
that are moving up. I think he'd be more likely to fight a Shakur Stevenson who's smaller than he would fighting a Boots Ennis who is bigger and arguably just as or more dynamic than Haney. So I just think either way, Haney's going to be in a great spot. And remember, he signs very short contracts with promoters and networks, and he's always ready to bolt for the big advantage. I'd love to see him against Tank. So I'd love to see him stay at the lower weight classes as much as possible. And then knowing in his 30s, he can be a big money welterweight.
Dude, him versus Tank would be absolute electric magic.
It'd be absolutely fantastic.
And then so wait, you live in Connecticut. Why aren't you going to? Oh, because you're going to be on tour this whole week.
Yeah, I will be hosting the 3 remaining dates of the Baddest Tour, Diaz versus Masvidal.
So where are they again?
So here it is. They're going to fight June 1st, the Forum in Inglewood on pay-per-view, and the tour will continue. We did Friday in Las Vegas, Tuesday night in Times Square at the Palladium, Wednesday in Miami outside, and then concluding Friday in Los Angeles. And
that Miami to LA back to Hartford flight, those are long flights.
Yeah, I mean, I flew from vacation home, flew the next morning to Vegas, got in the afternoon, hosted that, got on the red eye home, slept all day, covered 300 and UFC 300 until went to bed at 4-something a.m. Crashed yesterday, was on the train at 4:45 a.m. this morning, and here we go, Luke. So
all right,
there it is.
Take us in. He's here.
All right, our guest is here. You know him, right? You know him. Miami's own, the original baddest motherfucker, Jorge Masvidal. In the house, June 1st, the rematch that's 5 years in the making against Nate Diaz. This time, Luke Thomas in a boxing ring. We welcome in Jorge Masvidal. Jorge, the baddest tour continues this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's start right there, man. You fought Nate Diaz, UFC 244, BMF title. Now a boxing rematch. Did you always know that you were going to get that second chance against Nate?
I'm not getting a chance. Maybe like by chance you mean like the murderer's ass. But shit, I always wanted to fight. You know, just it wasn't gonna happen immediately after because I get offered the world title fight. You know, that's what I've been chasing since I joined the sport. And then after that, I get offered the number one. I mean, I get offered the fight for the title again. And then doing that, Nate's not really fighting during that time, or his team's not really wanting to cooperate. So I go and fight the number one guy in the world after that. And then after that, I went and fought the number 4 guy in the world. Nate was out of the UFC. So my view was like, I'm just going to take the biggest and best fights that I can, you know, and then this Nate fight will happen at some point, you know. But I said that the fight would happen, and now it's happening, you know.
Happening in a boxing ring June 1st. We got a lot more to get to that. But when you get the original BMF right here, and we're coming off of UFC 300, Jorge, and you see what Max Holloway did to Justin Gaethje, I got to get your immediate reaction from one BMF to another here of what went down Saturday.
Man, from start to finish, from top to bottom, maybe the greatest card that I've been a part of live, like that I've got to see live. You know, holy smokes, man. I didn't pay for my tickets, but I gladly would have. You know what I'm saying? Whoa. From the start to finish was just amazing. Every performance, all the fights were just spectacular. I mean, there's so many fights that could have just been a main event, all of its own on a huge show. It's crazy how much great fights they condense in one night. Violence, action, sweet science that MMA is as well. I mean, everything about that night was amazing. Then you talk about the Max Holloway fight. Wow. I mean, both of them were going at it. Gaethje had a lot of moments in there. Obviously, in my scorecard, I had Max ahead, so he didn't have to do the, hey, 10 seconds left, let's gamble it up, you know. And I've always thought before the belt, whether he would have won it or not, Max is one of the baddest motherfuckers that ever lived, you know. Had he lost that night by whatever outcome, I still would have been like, that's one bad motherfucker. The way he carries himself inside the ring and outside of the ring, the way he competes, I think he's always been everybody's favorite fighter, and fighters' favorite fighters as well. So number of props to Max, man, because that's the way you do it. That's the only way the BMF title's got to go, man. Somebody's got to go out cold, and you got to be leaving it all on the line every fucking time you step in there for that belt, you know. And I'm a BMF that's known for having the fastest knockout. I think, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, Max has like the latest, the closest to the hell-ending knockout. That's got to be the fucking craziest. I don't know what you would call it, but that's just amazing, brother. That's fucking amazing.
Jorge, we have a situation where Gaethje got put out cold. Someone asked me this. I don't know the answer. Maybe you do. The question was, is Justin Gaethje going to be the same? What do you think?
Justin's one of these guys that just keeps coming back. Like he's lost a couple stoppages before. I think, how many times has he been finishing the UFC? I know Dustin got him once.
Yeah.
Dustin definitely got him once. And I know there's other finishes that I'm not quite remembering right now. So usually with every guy that gets knocked out, especially the first time, I go, man, it's always interesting to see him come back and how they're gonna come back, you know. But in this one in particular, I just don't know, because Gaethje always just finds a way to come back and put on great shows and keep fucking winning. But this one was bad. He was out. I was there live. He was out for a good amount of time, maybe like 2 minutes. you know, and then when he stood up, when they set him up, he was still like visibly hurt, you know. So I hope he makes a full recovery and comes back to sport strong and ever, but you just don't know when you take a knockout like that, you know. And especially the whole fight, it wasn't just that. It was like a lot of abuse on both of their bodies. I thought Gaethje got the short end of the stick and was taking more abuse throughout. And his nose too, man, since round one with that spinning kick looked like it was destroyed. So that's another thing that you got to take into consideration. This fight might have took a lot of years out of Gaethje, man. Hell of a fight.
Hell of a fight indeed. All right, in terms of the return of Conor McGregor, which they announced for UFC 303, is going to be against Michael Chandler. What are your expectations, Jorge? Do you think he looks like the guy from at any point from earlier in his career, or at age 35, basically 36 at this point, and still trying to fight MMA? It might be curtains for him.
All I care about is today. Drug test that motherfucker. That's it, man. You know, keep the sport clean, keep motherfuckers getting tested, and that's it, bro. And other than that, we won't know till that date. You know, 'cause physically you could look one way, aesthetically you could have abs and your shoulders could be popping out and your traps could be by your ears, but fight-wise, it really don't mean shit, you know? So I don't know who's going to step in that cage that day.
Jorge, we saw you more or less retire after your fight against Burns in Miami, and now this brings you out of it for June 1st when we're going to see you, the rematch with Nate Diaz, this time in the Pro Boxing Ring Fan Mio pay-per-view. What was that process for you in saying, I'm not done yet? There's more left in this tank. You've had a successful run with your Game Bread promotion, whether you're doing boxing, bare knuckle MMA, which has gotten a lot of exposure of late. Is it easy to turn that light switch back on when the phone call came in and put the gloves on this time in the boxing ring?
Sorry about it. My cameraman's smoking crack or some shit right now. Don't worry, I'm going to put him in the shit later. Say the question and who's moving around.
What was that process internally of making the decision to come out of retirement and this time going back into pro boxing where you turned pro back in 2005?
Man, one, I can't go out with an L, you know, definitely. You know, even though it's a different sport and stuff, I just felt like I had to get the competitiveness in. I always wanted to box. I obviously couldn't because I was tied to the UFC, but the UFC granted me this, and this great opportunity came not just to make more money and provide for me and my family, to fight another legend in the sport that's done amazing things in the sport. So I definitely want to throw that. And then we have the little history that, you know, he thinks in his own head and he's the only one thinking that the fight was called unjustly. Okay, let's do it. I'm going to silence even you, bro. There'll be no questions about it. And Nate's always been one of these guys that's been touted as having the best hands in the UFC. I've always felt I got the best hands in the UFC, bar none. So let's go find out. Let's prove it, you know?
You mentioned that you asked UFC for permission. I believe there's a pay-per-view card that same night. Is it all kosher the way this is going to work out June 1st?
Yeah, it's all kosher. They had to give me the permission first. They got to give me the green light or nothing could happen, you know. And true fight fans, as you guys know, be watching both, you know. Bam, tuning in, have the two TVs split up and fucking, you know, so it's going to be a great fucking night of combat, man.
When we look back, Jorge, at UFC 244 and the first chapter in this rivalry between the two of you and the BMF title and such a big deal at that point, when you look back, how were you able to handle Nate the way that you were? Because while that fight did have the storyline of, let's say, you know, the early stoppage and all that, you rewatched those 3 rounds, you handled him. How were you able to do that with that ease?
I dropped him once per round, so definitely, you know, it was very favorable for me. I think a lot of it was just the homework I was able to do on Nate and see weaknesses that he had that I'm not bad at, you know, that I'm actually decent at. I can kick, you know, I can knee all right, and I got decent elbows, you know, and Nate kind of stayed always in this non-evolution of I'm just going to box and jiu-jitsu. Cool. Everything you don't do, I'm going to use it against you. That's why I didn't give up a takedown. You're not the best wrestler, and that's why I was able to hurt his body, and the foot to the face is what dropped him on his ass the first one, you know. To his benefit, in boxing, I can't do them things. So he's got some things going for him at least. But that body's still a weak ass, same body that he had back then. So I'm gonna tax that body, the living shit out of his body, you know. And the first one, man, it was my moment. It was no stopping it. I was in great shape. Didn't have no real injuries going into that fight. So I just knew I had to show up and show out. President Trump was there. I walked out with my favorite fighter of all time, Roberto Duran. And The Rock wrapped the belt around my waist. Man, there was no way I could lose to that motherfucker, man.
What did you see, Jorge, in Nate Diaz's boxing match with Jake Paul? What did you see?
you know, I saw the match, and there's a lot of things that took from it, like tendencies and habits. But that wasn't like the Nate that I'm accustomed to. At least it didn't look like he took Jake seriously. It didn't look like he was running his miles. Just his body didn't look it, you know. So I don't want to get a false confidence and be like, that's the guy I'm fighting. Nate knows that he's not 100% prepared for me. He goes to sleep because he knows that I have those intentions in me. It's not. I'm not trying to fight with you and point at each other and fucking giggle it up in the ring. Like, you know, I don't gotta say, but everybody knows I'm quite the opposite, man. I'm trying to do my fucking job. My job is to execute, separate myself from as much as I can. And that's it, you know. So I didn't think that either of them were like in the best shape of their lives, or actually like mean motherfuckers, and showed the sport of boxing the respect it needed, because boxing's not a game. You know, you got to be in tip top shape and fucking give it your all, man.
What is the plan?
Okay, so you're fake guillotine.
I remember that. Okay, so what, you are now out of retirement. You got this fight June 1st with Nate Diaz. What is the, I don't know what you call it, post-retirement plan? Like, now that you're back, what are you trying to get out of this next chapter of your life?
Well, the UFC allowed me to come back for 3 boxing matches. That's exactly what I'm gonna do. Nate's the first of them, and then we're gonna go after some big boxing names, some household names in the boxing business, and we'll get to it, man. We're gonna fight these motherfuckers, sell these pay-per-views, kick a lot of ass, fucking throw the garbage in the trash, you know? And then the UFC allowed me to do these conditions where one fight to come back for the UFC and fuck some people up there. So first take care of business, one foot in front of the other. I got Nate, which he's not no slouch or joke. I'm gonna take care of business then and just keep it moving, man. See what else happens and see who I end up fighting. You know, I got some good opponents possibly lined up. I can't say names because nobody's officially signed yet, but we're working on that. So after the fight, we'll be announcing who it is and where it is. And then when those 3 are done, unofficially retire from the UFC, your boy will come back.
Is the UFC getting a cut of any of your earnings by, like, in order to get you to get, because you're getting these fights, do they get a part of it at all? We can't hear. What happened?
That's because I can't say nothing, cuz. Man, you want me to be careful.
Got him.
What'd you got?
I want to ask. Look, the Baddest Tour will continue this week. Tuesday night, Times Square, New York City, open to the public. We'll be there Wednesday in Miami, Friday in LA. How do you read Nate? It's always hard to read Nate, right? And it was like we talked about on Friday. It was a little cordial when you fought at UFC 244. A lot of respect. I hear the trash talks mounting up. Do you get the feeling when you look at Nate's eyes in the face-off that you're going to get the absolute best of him June 1st?
Well, you know, that trash talk started happening when the bad energy started happening when he started just talking crap. You know, after the first fight, he called me a coward, called me a quitter. It's like the worst things you can call another man, especially in my 50 fights. I've never quit. I've never not came out of my stool. Another interesting fact is I've never tapped. Can Nate say the same thing? So I'm not calling people to tap quitters, but I'm not even in that realm like of tapped. I've actually gone to sleep or got in my ankle or my arm severely fucked up rather than tap. And it won't happen. I won't tap. I'll go to sleep or find a way to get out of it. But it's just not even in my thought process. You know, I don't give a fuck what I have to go through, but I'm not gonna tap. I'm not gonna quit. So for him to say those things, like, I know you're trying to hurt my feelings because I just rearrange your face, but that sticks with me for life. Like, I'm not that dude, you know. So I not that I lost respect for him, but I'm like, all right, cool. You wanna do this shit talking route? Let's fucking go. Because I can talk shit as well. You know, I could ask him, how does my foot taste and shit like that. He can't say the same thing to me ever. You know?
Jorge, there's been mythical creatures in the history of combat sports that we love, whether it's 2013 Vitor Belfort, Sea Level Cain Velasquez. How about 2019 Jorge Masvidal, the consensus fighter of the year? When you look back at that calendar year in your life, and we've told that story so many times of you coming out of the woods in Central America on a reality show and being all focused on baptism, what did that year do for your life, your brand, your image, your career, everything?
First and foremost, glory to God. God gave me the vision, the plan when I was in the jungles in DR. And I had a plan, and then myself, 16 years of combat, I was able to reverse engineer it, do all the detailing I needed to really figure out what I want to do left for my career. And when I initially went to the show, between injuries and not being able to get a fight, part of me was like, maybe I'm just done with the sport. Maybe it's time to move on, provide another route for my family. But as I got away from the TV, the music, everything, and you really get in tune with yourself and you're secluded from the world and nobody can interfere with my thoughts that are going on up here. Just one thing kept coming to mind. Hey, I need to come back and fight. I need to fight. And in that, I, as I've said many times, I came up with a plan and I put that plan to use, and boom, 2019 fight of the year, knockout of the year, record holder, belt holder. So it just showed when you come up with a plan, with the blueprint for yourself, just have a lot of conviction and gasoline behind it and get to it, And it's the same thing now, man. I got a good plan for my comeback right now, for these next boxing matches and my comeback in the UFC, and really hurt some people. So I'm happy to stay here on Morning Combat with you brothers that know MMA as well as anybody else. I'm gonna come back and fucking snatch some souls up, man.
Can't wait. It all goes down June 1st.
I got one.
Oh,
I got one.
Please jump in.
Hey,
one more.
Jorge, before you go, quickly, give me a prediction, a real prediction, gun to your head kind of prediction. Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, what happens?
Brother Luke, I don't even know. It's an exhibition. It's a 16-ounce gloves. It's a 2-minute round. There's all these factors. I just don't even know, man. Mike, is an old man. No matter how you see it, was one of the fucking greatest heavyweights that ever lived. Yeah, but that was like almost 30 years ago. So I don't know how Mike's gonna show up to the fight. I don't think Jake is the greatest boxer or like exceptional anywhere with power, speed. But man, you still can't take away that father time gets to everybody, So I just don't know. I'm not leaning any which way. I really don't know. It's too many factors there to decide.
Interesting stuff. June 1st, the Forum in Los Angeles, Fan Mio pay-per-view, Chapter 2, two combat sports icons. It's Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz, Part 2. And Jorge, we can catch you Tuesday night, Times Square, Fan Mio YouTube page. The baddest tour continues with you and Nate going face-to-face. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Jorge.
We wish you a lot of luck. And
hey, great show.
Go drop a few G's at that store, okay? Get some nice slacks or something right there, okay?
I'm gonna do it, and then I'm gonna send the bill to you guys, because I had to get
there he is. Game Bread, Jorge Masvidal.
All right, good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff right there. Luke, to kind of put a button on where we were going.
The drug testing thing on Connor is fucking hilarious.
Is hilarious, by the way. We're just put a button on what's going on Saturday, the big boxing pay-per-view.
Yes,
Brooklyn,
Haney Garcia at the Barclays Center.
DAZN pay-per-view, and of course, Haney versus Garcia.
Now, hold on, real question. DAZN pay-per-view, Haney Garcia. That's the only place selling it? Because sometimes it's like ESPN Plus and DAZN.
PPV.com.
PPV.com.
Also,
Okay,
and of
right.
course, Jim Lampley, our friend Dan Canobio, Chris Algeri doing work there. And tickets for this fight still available. You can purchase tickets for Garcia versus Haney at Ticketmaster.com. We laid out the storylines, the expectations, the whole debate about Ryan Garcia. He has got people interested. Prediction. What actually happens? How does this fight break down Saturday night?
I think that Ryan Garcia is probably going to do what you say, which is he's going to stalk Devin Haney, and Devin Haney is going to be a little bit offensively muted to start. He's going to use a lot of footwork, a lot of ring craft, a lot of clinching, a lot of grabbing, a lot of holding, and then getting out of the way. But here's the thing what we know about Devin Haney. One of the best jabs in the lower weight classes, maybe one of the best jabs in all of boxing. He is consistent with it. It comes from low to high. It establishes range. It establishes everything else he can do. Once that gets cooking, round 3, round 4, it's going to be curtains for him. And the other part, too, is I think Garcia is going to be put back into bad habits. I do think you're going to see that shoulder roll. I do think you're going to see him extend with his chin wide open, and he's going to get caught with it. So could there be a couple of dangerous moments throughout the fight, but certainly early for Devin Haney? Probably so. But skills win fights. He is vastly more skilled. He is vastly more dialed in. I think you get a stoppage somewhere after round 9.
I think it might even be earlier. It depends how crazy this fight actually gets. I think the best case scenario, though, is if Garcia can come out, catch that chin of Haney early, and at least make some pockets of really fun action. We got to see what happens. God, does Ryan Garcia have a secret that he's hiding from us? You know what I mean? Is there something
he's fucking
working?
Crazy. Yeah.
It might be it there. Saturday night, DAZN pay-per-view from the Barclays in Brooklyn. Can't wait for that one. All right, Luke, we close this fantastic episode of Morning Combat here with what we do every Monday, right? When I scour the globe for like the highs and lows, the
Fart in the elevator?
good, the bad, the ugly, the in-between. There might be some flatulence, then some elder abuse. We call this, have you seen this shit?
All right, they're better.
Luke, I'm proud to announce all of our shit made it through the censors this week.
It's because the censors went on vacation. So this might be the last one we do.
All right, we start off UFC 300 from Las Vegas. And Luke, we talked about Aljo having a good fight against Calvin Kattar, but not getting the love and respect. How about that power bomb right there?
And it's not a Phil power bomb because he didn't spike him on his head. If you notice, he moves back, and so he lands him on his shoulders. So I'm telling you, dude, did he blow up the world and be like, oh, I got to see Aljo? No. Did he show you that he's a force to be reckoned with? Yeah, he did.
Captain Insano would have loved that right there, Luke.
I don't
No
know
question
who the fuck
about
that
it.
is.
All right, Amanda Nunes, we mentioned, was watching at home when Kayla Harrison took care of Holly Holm. Let's go to that video. She was waiting for the call out that never happened. I just love that she's like, hey guys,
it's like,
I'm still willing.
Here's the thing. It's like, oh, you didn't call me out. Aren't you retired?
True, but that would have been
retired.
Amanda Nunes, get your shit together, and that would have been a good.
Yeah, but that's when John Jones was like, just hitting pregnant
it.
chicks in cars.
This was more about Kayla's moment, but this is good news for women's MMA, no question about it. Let's go to Arman Tsarukyan. And Luke, he didn't get the knockout of Charles Oliveira, although he got a big split decision win.
I know where you're going.
He did get a KO on the walkout, though. Check this out. I love Dana afterwards.
Play
like,
this shit.
Oh, boy.
Oh, great job, Long Island
Flat
Luke.
tire, Long Island Luke.
Dude, so if you didn't see it, when he goes by, someone said F you to him as he's walking out. Some fan, just a fan. He stops.
Here we go.
There we go. Watch this guy. What the fuck you say, bitch? And someone asked him about it afterwards. He goes, guys, you can't talk this way to me. I'm from Russia. This is, what's going to happen. I'm like, that's a fair point, actually.
Even Dana's afterwards, like, you pay your money for that seat. You can talk your shit, but what do you expect?
You know what? I got to tell you, normally, obviously, we don't want people fighting in the stands.
Yeah, we don't want the Palace Brawl, right?
But I got to tell you, a little Palace at the Malice for deserving
Shout out to
fans.
Stack 5.
Your boy is right here for it.
Steven Jackson would get our back too and run in the
Steven
crowd.
Jackson would look at this and be like, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Don't talk that shit. Luke, we mentioned that you had such a great reaction to that KO that it looked like you were at, Six Flags Great Adventure or insert, what's your old, King's Dominion
King's
in Virginia?
Dominion's the one in Central Virginia.
Busch Gardens. Somebody on Twitter here really took this to the next level. This is your meme of the week. Let's watch this.
Oh,
Luke going down Space Mountain. Shout out to @JoeJaggy on Twitter there.
Justin Gaethje got flattened! Holy fucking shit!
Luke, hands up all the time. Come on, let's
Holy
go. On
fucking
the hill.
shit!
Oh, Luke, it's such a gift. You were such a gift to the show.
You know what? I'm not going to hide from my fandom.
Yeah,
it's real.
Shout out Othello, my guy right there. Let's go, Luke. Busy weekend outside of UFC 300 in Las Vegas, including the baddest tour, Luke, in which don't bring up Jake Paul's name around Masvidal or Diaz.
No, they don't get too sized
You
for
won
it.
10 rounds against Jake Paul last August. What did you learn about yourself in that process?
Fuck Jake Paul. Fuck Jake Paul. Fuck Jake Paul. There's real fighters over here, man.
Oh, Nate. A lot of
I
times
gotta say, I don't know who hosted that, but that guy's a fucking moron.
Yeah, he dresses bad too. Wow, Nate was answering a lot of questions with like the microphone like behind his back.
He
and
does
something.
that.
It's
Like it's all wobbly
Nate, we
and
can't
shit.
hear
Yeah.
you, sir. All right, let's keep it going. Also in Vegas, Luke, Power Slap 7. And you know how sometimes they get these catchers? You got to do your job though, right? Oh, I mean, come on.
That the head flopped. I didn't see this. There's a guy, I think he calls himself Fight Ghost on Twitter. He's like one of these hardcore
It's
fans.
the worst sport ever.
Well, what he was saying was there was a bunch of upsets on this card, people who were champions.
Oh, really? Really?
But he said, but what happened was like these are guys who've been knocked out before. He was saying that like the chins go in this sport quickly. Like once they take
yeah.
one of these, there's no coming
But
back.
look at these
from that.
catchers. Their job is to like they have Forrest Griffin do this sometimes.
I
And they're
gotta
just
tell
like,
you, I don't mind that they don't do their job. I'm not really gonna cry.
Hey,
about
Dana
that.
did say Saturday that he expects celebrity crossover sooner than later in Power Slap. I hope that doesn't mean ex-UFC fighters. I really hope. Like,
Is this going to be like the acting equivalent of Bang Bus, where like if you can't even be on like free TV anymore, you just got to go figure out?
like, dude, if like Roy Nelson and Chet Congo are squaring off in this soon, like I'm out, dude. I was already out, but like,
Yeah, it's not like I've been in.
yeah. Wouldn't say I've been missing it. Also in Vegas, Luke, was the PFL, like you mentioned.
You wouldn't know it. By the way, I'm not listening to me. Good show. Good show. Zero buzz.
Well,
Zero.
Cassius Clay Collar did make it on the shit
dude,
here.
Fucking A, he's
against
awesome.
Patricky Pitbull. Look at this 19-punch combination.
Who's the top rank matchmaker on Twitter?
Brad Jacobs, Brad Goodman.
No, it's not Brad Jacobs.
Bruce Trampler.
Tom something? Corn something?
Evan Korn, yes.
Yeah. He was, so, because remember, during the pandemic, Clay Collard fought in boxing for top rank. During the middle of that, all the top rank guys were apparently watching this and were celebrating on Twitter afterwards. So good for Clay Collard.
He beat the crap out of Patricky Pitbull right there. That was a good finish. And also top rank boxing, Luke, on the undercard, 20-year-old Dominican heavyweight Ali Feliz got a knockout in his pro debut. And he did it against a guy.
His name is Feliz.
He did it against a guy in sweatpants and Jordans, Luke. But that happens.
I mean, could your trunks be higher? These trunks both cover my waist and titties.
Oh boy, that was on the Jared Anderson undercard in Texas. All right, let's keep it going, Luke. Unfortunately for some, R.I.P. not just Gary Shaw, but Orenthal James Simpson, and it was very, very polarizing reactions.
Did you have to include this picture? I don't. By the way, Ariel, if you're looking at this, I don't make these. Fucking he makes these.
What do you make of like this? The reaction.
He has told me the story to how they met. I forget what it was. I don't recall anymore.
Which guy would you rather go on a cross country trip with? That's really the question. No, that's unfair, Luke. R.I.P.
Well, one of them's dead. One of them's dead.
Yeah, and by the way, I've never seen, rightfully so, this many people come out after somebody died and been so aggressively negative. And
you know what's kind of funny? I saw a lot of people who were like 20 years old who weren't around for the OJ trial. We were in high school during the OJ trial. Let me tell you something. Put the camera on me.
As you often say, it's not your fault, cameraman, that you were born in 1997.
Listen, if you were born in 21 and you think OJ is not guilty, you're a fucking moron. Fuck your life.
All right. Okay, Luke, let's keep it going. Did you hear Clarissa Shields' diss track aimed at Alicia Baumgardner?
Yeah, quote. That's how it goes, right? Yeah.
Trying to come for me, at least you come harder. You reap what you sow, nothing but a bum garden. Hater. Even on your best day, you couldn't hurt me. What I look like cutting 30 for a bitch that dropped dirty, nigga. Yeah, quote.
Apologies for the N-word.
Yeah,
there,
I can't
Luke,
do the N-word part. But the rest of it sounds spirited.
That's not bad. Like Ryan Garcia's video when he was singing recently was real weird. But
Ryan Garcia's is the worst thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
short of an animal being tortured.
Okay, that's extreme. But
this is better than that.
Do you want to see this fight? Because they had to be separated at a fight recently in person.
Yeah, actually I do. I mean, I don't know if it makes sense from the weight classes, but in terms of rivalry, it's fun.
It's interesting. New sport alert, Luke. You've heard of mud wrestling, right?
Have I?
Have you heard of mud boxing?
This has got to be Russia, right? Just two Slavic
They're Russian
dogs.
for CTE. I'll tell you that much, Luke. This is an interesting theater right here. Who do you got? The guy covered in shit or the other guy covered in shit? Wow.
I don't think either of these guys are going to be anywhere near a Nobel Prize committee's attention.
Well, remember that Don Fry fight in Pride?
Dude, this is what I mean. It's like when people get Darwin Awards, it's like, dude, not everyone's meant to live.
Yeah.
I mean...
Luke, one of my favorite follows on Instagram is that guy with the fart machine, Luke. You know what I'm talking about?
I actually don't. This ought to be fun. I have not seen this.
It's hammer time.
All right.
You can't touch this.
All right.
Is this my cart?
Nope, that's my cart. I think that's your cart right up there.
You sure?
Yep.
So, Luke, shout out to Super Stupid Poop on Instagram. I harass my kids with these videos constantly, like you do to me with
I gotta
BBLs.
I gotta tell you, these pranks, I usually don't like them. But the fact that he makes eye contact with people.
He holds the mirror up in Walmart and watches people's eyes through the mirror,
Dude,
which is
the fact that
creepy
he
as
makes eye contact is such a filthy dirtbag thing to do. I have no choice but to respect it.
All right, let's go to the. Hey, remember we played Flip Cup or not Flip Cup? Beer pong.
Beer pong, yeah.
With the MMA on Point guys, and I was clutch as shit.
I got the first one, and then nothing thereafter.
And then I took us home. Let's check in on this game.
I got a few fellas playing here on some plywood.
Nice Astros jersey there, yeah, coming in hot.
Fucking loser ass franchise. Why don't you go bang on garbage can? Oh, okay.
Here we go.
I got to tell you though, that's part of the whole thing. I one time played at my fraternity house, and a guy was looking for a place to vomit, and he just picked up like a traffic cone, which of course
There's
is
a hole in
open.
it. Yeah.
And so the vomit just went right through.
That's
we were
great.
like, maybe
That's
don't do
great.
that.
Yeah.
He ended up running for office later, by the way. Did not did not get elected.
Marion Barry? Luke,
Mayor for
Smoked
life.
Crack got his job back.
That's
Don't
right.
forget that. We don't have elder abuse this week, but we do have some child abuse. We haven't had this in a while, Luke.
Is that abuse?
I think that's how she got pink eye.
That's how I'd like to get pink eye.
Okay. Luke, you've heard that famous phrase, nothing a double leg couldn't figure out.
Here you go, the skits and fucking.
What if you
I was waiting. I was like, when MK comes back, how long before the Reddit skits and bits
That's
get going?
not
Didn't
fair.
take long.
That's not fair at all. But speaking of that, Luke, watch this double leg.
Just double leg this motherfucker down the stairs. You know what? Both of you just stay down there. Just stay down there.
Luke, it's time for the T-shirts of the week, and you know this always gets a big
Wine
reaction.
them down,
right?
69 them.
I'm gonna get you this for your birthday.
Addiction
Luke.
awareness, Latina holic.
There it is.
Guilty as charged.
Yes. Would you wear that?
Proudly.
Okay. I wish we could do what was that old bit we had on the wheel? Impromptu improv, Luke, where we could pretend that you have to stand up and say, "My name is Luke Thomas."
I don't like that bit.
Latina holic. Okay, let's keep the T-shirts going.
Let me read it out for the folks listening on the podcast platform. This gentleman here who's mouth breathing has a shirt that says, "Anyone can masturbate under a sheet, but it takes real skill to do it without the hairdresser noticing." Okay. All right.
I don't think you should read the next one, Luke. Okay. I really don't think you should.
Let me see the next one. Okay. My man's shirt. I'm going to read it.
No, don't. No.
Bukkake ruined my carpet.
And the show, apparently. Okay, there you go. A couple more left, Luke. Look at the handle on this.
Yeah, dude, you're right.
restroom.
The censors were on vacation. I mean, you snuck them all in.
Would you grab that, Luke, with two hands or what?
You know what? It's a little cold, but we can make things happen.
Okay.
A little cold.
And speaking of the former UFC heavyweight, Shop's taking this Toontown thing to the extreme lately, right?
Tell me that's not him. That's not him, right? This is some other video.
No, it's not him. It's not him.
Okay. Maybe, what the fuck are you idiots doing? Oh, fuck! That was me when Max Holloway knocked out Justin Gaethje. That's how I felt. That's how I felt. Dude, what the fuck are these people? Dude, these fucking idiots. This is why they made seatbelts. It's for fucking morons like that.
Yes, that's your shit of the week. I hope you've seen it there, Luke. Okay, that's what it is. Hey, was that the best 2 hours in combat sports?
It was a little quick. I would have liked to have gone longer, but we have limited time in studio because they got to turn around for the next fucking.
What do you
bunch of
say to
slop.
the people that are like, "Man, I'm so happy MK's back,
I wish it was more days
but
a
I
week.
wish it was MK all day, damn
Yeah.
near every single day."
People, you know what's funny? We made that video announcing we were back, and people claim to have heard it. I don't think that they actually did.
Or the 500 references that the last 3 months didn't go to plan, but that we will get there step by step.
And we did.
And
We did. So it's the same thing. It's like, are there discussions right now about doing additional days? Are we actively talking about it and potentially planning it? Yes. Yes, as a matter of fact, we are.
Are we going to expand our team and our operation over
And
the
going
next
to live
year?
show. By the way, May 4th, we're supposed to be going to the Canelo fight. So, like, I told you guys we were going to have to rebuild brick by brick, but we're on the way.
We're on the way. One more time, Luke, for 300. Can we pour one out? Can we do it?
My last sip of Celsius, yeah.
Arriba, Ribaderci.
Arriba, abajo, el centro
Abajo el segundo. Luke, I forgot my wallet again. I will say though that like it restored my faith in why I do this, why I love this, why I would stay up to 4 a.m.
It was one of the greatest.
Cover this
it was
shit.
one of the, I mean, for not having been there in person, that's probably one of the greatest emotions I've ever felt watching fights.
Has there been a UFC card that you came out of there more jacked up, more?
In terms of like what one
erect.
fight did to me,
I mean, it's hard to beat Carwin Lesnar 116.
that's the
just
closest one I can think of. That one was insane.
217, dude. 217.
And also, like, it's different because boxing is different. But Bud sustaining his beating of Errol Spence was just like continuously shocking. You know what I mean? This was like Max did really well. Then there was this like incredibly punctuated moment. That one had the knockdown in the second round or second or third round, whatever it was. And then he just never let off the fucking gas. That was a little bit different for me.
But I have to say, like, was there, not every fight was perfect on this card, but like the intensity from fight. I could not wait for the next fight every single time. It was normally you're like, okay, I got this amount of time before the main card. I'll just kind of casually watch this. No, like it was like the old days, Luke. It's
like dude, even the fights that people were bitching about, like the Andrade and Rodriguez fight, like did that need to be there? No, you can debate that, but it was fine. It was like there was nothing wrong with that. It was competitive. It was on the feet. Like they didn't like stall it out. Like it just delivered. I was thinking about this too, like MMA moments. What Max did. We were talking about because people are comparing it to fight endings, and I don't think on pure KO terms it can hold up in terms of fight endings. On pure KO terms, it's vicious. But again, what Joaquin Buckley did. But when you think about MMA moments, dude, to me, I'm going to put this one right up there with the stare down between Lawler and McDonald in their fight. Right up there with the Showtime kick. Right up there.
That fight is actually better. I don't think I told you this before than McDonald versus the other guy.
What language are you fucking speaking?
I'm speaking Lawler versus Condon.
Okay.
A great debate, Luke. You just have to remember what you're talking about. And clearly, I have power.
But don't you think in terms of moments, like the Showtime kick was the last WEC fight? It didn't stop the fight. The fight kept going.
Yeah.
But just as one of those oh shit moments.
Well, it's right up there with the thing that doesn't get enough attention, which is the Denver 25th anniversary show with Korean Zombie and Yair Rodriguez. Because I know like that was kind of like a contendership fight. It was a fight night card, but I mean that's the ultimate come from behind walk off. This didn't have that because Max was in the lead, but like I said, man, I actually think it's up there with Rousey Holm. I actually think it's up there with Silva's front kick. I think it's up there with the Matt Hughes slam. I mean, this is one of the greatest, most iconic moments. And I'm so happy as a fan. Forget journalist, just as a fan to have endured that. And yeah, man.
What's your favorite Apex fight coming up?
All right, Luke. I think you have a train to catch and another job there. We want to shout out.
I'm done working for the day.
Shout out DraftKings.
Hey, DraftKings. You can check us out at DraftKings Network at 5 p.m. for a replay of some of this for folks who may not have gotten it the first time. Of course, it's going to be out on the audio platforms and everything else. So yeah. And then again, one more time, you're going to be here tomorrow for the
baddest tour. Diaz versus Masvidal 2. They're going to go face-to-face Tuesday night in New York City in Times Square.
By the way, that presser was late East Coast time and
it was
Friday.
11 p.m. East Coast time. It's going to be earlier this time around and around the 8 o'clock hour. And we're going to be Wednesday night in Miami, Friday night in Los Angeles. So it should be good. We'll see as the train keeps rolling. What Nate says here, Luke. All right.
What does Nate say here?
Demand a few words. But can Jorge get under his skin? That's the question.
I think he can.
I think he can too. It was great catching up with him. Where was he at? A Kohl's right there? Was that an H&M? What do you think?
I don't know where he was. I know he's in studio with Ariel though. I know that.
Oh wow, that's a big booking. That's pretty cool right there. Thank you to everybody for watching. Morningcombat.store for our merch. Tell RJ we said hi. You can use that promo code LIVE10 right now for 10% off everything we do, from bomber jackets to all that other bullshit. What else you got? Anything else, Chin?
Thanks to everyone who watched all my stuff over the weekend. Appreciate that. YouTube.com/Luke Thomas. That was very, very cool. Some stuff to figure out. Would it surprise you that I had some tech issues? Would it surprise you?
It would not surprise me at all.
But we fixed them. I fixed them. So we were able to hold on and make it work. So thanks to everybody. By the way, people have been asking us, as you expand and potentially do more shows, which again, we are actively discussing. One thing that they said was, hey, could you guys do like a members only thing on Morning Combat, where like you just have an uncensored show for members? And I didn't say no. Like, is that a possibility, BC? I think it is.
I mean, how uncensored is uncensored, Luke? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like,
we're gonna record it in a bang bus and then just call it a day.
I mean, we're not ranking our favorite straw weights, right? We're not going too far with this, right?
Pants when they get to the ankles.
Yes, people want more content. We want to get paid for more content. We want to be able to provide bonus content. We're working on stuff. We're in the kitchen cooking up, at least for now. Thank you for watching. We're so happy to be back here. Metal Studios.
People think that there was like another thing that we could have done that would have made life easier for everyone else and us.
Yeah.
And that we just chose not to do it.
They're like, you promised a whole new thing and nothing changed, all right?
And we're like, guys, we are playing with the hand we've been dealt.
We helped save the show.
Yeah. I don't think people will understand that. Yeah, but there we go.
There we go.
Thank you very much. You want to take us out?
No. I'm just out of here, okay? That's
all right,
it.
Brian Campbell, that's the King of Connecticut. I'm Luke Thomas. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Catch us on your favorite podcast platforms and everything else in between. For BC, I'm LT. This is MK. And until next time, may all of your gains be loyal.